Good morning. If I can get everyone's attention, please. If you have not gotten a copy of the agenda or if you have not signed up on the speaking queue, the forms are up here at the front. Hannah, can you raise your hand real fast? This is Hannah Parrish. She is our executive assistant. She'll be collecting the speaker cards from around the audience and bringing them up. And we've got forms on both this side and that side. We'll get started here in about 2 minutes, so if you haven't gotten your agenda or a speaking card, please feel free to do so right now. Also, behind me, we have this beautiful poster to help us launch this project. And before you leave today, if you could kindly sign it, this is going to be a great way for us to mark the beginning of Project Putnam with your support. So at some point today, make sure you come and sign this, and we've got Sharpies up here. So we'll get started in about 1 minute. If you haven't gotten your agendas or speaking cards, please do so, and you can turn them into Hannah here. Thank you. Yeah, we should have one up here.
Brandon?
It's okay. This can be a little bit of a lively meeting. We don't have to be silent in here. Thank you. All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good morning. Merry Christmas, and thank you for joining us on a very busy week. I know people are trying to get ready for Christmas and New Year's, and there's a lot of family functions happening right now, but we wanted to make sure that we had our second and final round of presentations on Project Putnam. How many of you were at the meeting on November 29th? Hands up. Thank you. About half. We had I'm not sure if you heard, but we had a great meeting. It was about 4 hours long, an hour longer than we anticipated. And there was some great things that came out of that. And the congressman couldn't have been more happy and proud of the ideas that were generated and the momentum that's starting to build. For those of you who don't know me, I am Kat Kamak. I'm Congressman Ted Yoho's Deputy Chief of Staff. Basically what that means is I do everything from A to Z, and one of those things is economic development, in addition to scrubbing toilets and doing errands. It's a joke. We can laugh in here. It's okay. The congressman was planning on being here today, but you may have seen in the news last night or early this morning that the Senate parliamentarian found an issue in the conference report. So the House is going to vote again for the tax plan, which will pass. Late last night or early this morning, about 1 o'clock, the Senate passed the tax reform bill. And so the president will be signing it either later today or tomorrow. So the congressman could not miss that vote. It's a critical vote, and he'll be home late tonight. But otherwise, he wishes he could be here to share his vision for Putnam County with you all today. What we're going to do, if you have a copy of the agenda in front of you, is I'm just going to go over the agenda very briefly, and then we'll jump into the presentation so you can get an understanding of exactly what Congressman Yoho envisions for Putnam County. Before we do that, we're going to kind of go through elected officials. I know there's some time constraints with folks that have to leave a little bit early, but we'll get remarks from elected officials, then state officials, and then on to local stakeholder organizations. If you could do me a huge favor and keep your remarks to about 3 minutes, I would really appreciate it. I know we have a lot of folks here today and a lot of ideas, a lot of opinions, and we want to make sure that everyone is heard. If you don't want to speak, but you do want to leave a comment, again, the comment cards are up here on these sides of the room. You can write your information down, make sure Hannah gets a copy of it, and I will read it, Congressman will read it, and then we'll circle back. let me see, where did he go? I'm looking for Mr. Ben Bates. Mr. Ben Bates. Mr. Ben Bates has been spearheading an organization called Putnam Forward. And he spoke with a congressman several months ago about what their organization was doing, which was trying to move the county forward. That kind of spurred off the congressman's vision. As ethics and legal rules apply, we are not affiliated with any for-profit company. We are a government institution, and we work with government entities, state, local, and federal. But I do want to give Mr. Bates an opportunity to come and speak about what his group has done, because they have done a phenomenal job of rallying stakeholders in the county and in the community to come forward to really get the potential of Putnam County realized. So, Mr. Bates, if you wouldn't mind joining me up here for a moment to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Kat. A group of us, business and community folks, got together probably about a year ago with one vision, looking forward, not in the rearview mirror. It's so exciting to look out today and to see this august group of leaders of our community looking for a plan to move our county forward. And I trust, and Kat's goal today is for us to be forward-looking and not looking in the rearview mirror. Let's look forward. Let's get a vision. I can say I've been in the county since 1967, and to my knowledge, Congressman Yoho is the first congressman that we've had to take the interest in our county like he is, and to work to make our county a better place to live, work, and play. And when you see the progress that's been made and his goals that he wants us to buy into to move our county forward, I think it's exciting for each and every one of us. And we need to give him and Kat a big round of applause for the effort. I know he's disappointed that he can't be here today, but he had an obligation in Washington that he had to take care of. So let's give Kat a big round of applause. And there's a lot of us, so let's limit it to about 3 minutes, and let's look forward, not backward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. And in the spirit of unity and moving Putnam County forward, if you all would stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, as you know, Congressman Yoho inherited Putnam County in the 2016 congressional redistricting initiative that was undertaken by the state. We had never served Putnam County prior to 2017 in January, but the congressman has a very unique bond with this county. He has been coming here since the late 70s. He and his wife have a home in Welaka, and it's a place that they like to call home. So he has always had a very special relationship with Putnam County. And when we started coming over here in January, our entire team looked around and we said, there's so much potential here. There's so many amazing people. They have incredible resources, so much talent. Why isn't this happening? Why isn't that happening? And so began a year-long expedition to talk to stakeholders, residents, elected officials, appointed officials about what they saw was holding Putnam County back. And this vision, Project Putnam, is the realization of all those conversations. And as you can see this poster behind me, Putnam County was established in 1849. And we see this project as being the starting point of 168 years of potential realized. We are not here to lay blame. We are not here interested in who didn't do what or who did what. We are looking forward, and we want ideas and community input to get this county on track and really realize the potential here. So, without further ado, I'm going to go through Congressman Yoho's vision for Putnam County. And a lot of these numbers will seem repetitive, or you may know them. There is a little bit of wiggle room in them just because depending on what source you look at, the numbers can be, they can fluctuate a little bit, but we use the federal verified numbers from the census. I was notified today that our unemployment is actually lower than 5.8, which is wonderful, and our percentage of poverty, population in poverty is actually lower than that number, so that's great. One of the things that has been a chronic issue is we have a declining population in the county, which means that in some areas there's too much population for certain programs, and in some other areas there's not enough. The census predicts that we will actually see this number, the total population, go down about 300 persons by 2020. We envision that with the programs that we roll out, Putnam County will become a hub and attract more talent and workforce and families to live here. So that number will probably go up. One of the things that while we were going around talking to folks, developers, economic developers, site selectors, companies, was the graduation rate. The graduation rate is one of the lowest in the state at 63.6, and I believe it is now 68 for two, there we are, 68?
It looks like this year will be even higher than that.
Yes.
Good. 16, 17
That's what we like to hear. So we're on our way. We're on an upward trajectory. So again, one of the things that we heard repeatedly was, your graduation rate's too low. We don't want to build neighborhoods. We don't want to build facilities. You can't get the families in. So one of the cornerstones of our vision is to increase the graduation rate and really start developing a workforce that can graduate here with a top-notch education and then either go to college if they choose or enter the workforce right away. So again, our vision is to realize the potential of Putnam County and all those who call her home. So we are on the track right now to hit these 3-year goals. What you see on the screen here is Putnam County today versus 2020 and the benchmarks that we want to hit. You see on the average annual salary, $36,000. We want to see that taken all the way up to $45,000. That will be about state average, and we believe that that is easily doable, especially given the current industry that we have here and how we can support that. And then we agreed, and I hadn't changed this yet, so I apologize. We agreed at the November 29th meeting that we're going to shoot for an 80% graduation rate. If you look at our neighboring counties, Clay County to the north, they have an 84% graduation rate. St. John's, 91.2%. That state average is about 80% graduation rate. If we can hit that, that is going to be a very, very big notch in our belt. So that is our 2020 goal. I think we can hit that. And then if you look at the admissions to prison per 100,000, what we want to do is take that down by 30%. This will be a result of, one, focusing on educational programs, but then also working with our law enforcement, like Sheriff DeLoach and our police chief here, to get programs, community programs funded, working with the DOJ and our state partners to really make sure that our law enforcement has all the resources and tools available to them, and we're getting into the community as much as possible. So we'll see that go down significantly. Are y'all up for the challenge, 30% reduction? That was an enthusiastic nod, I can tell. I'll take it. I was notified today again that the unemployment rate is currently 4.8 currently. We would like to see that same margin go down. And then if you look at the total amount of federal funding, this is from 2017, that $16 million, we want to see this number go 20 million or above. Now, the reason why we want to do that is because we're going to take advantage of absolutely every federal program and state program available. And we have spoken with the White House. They are going to fund an incredible number of rural development projects. So that number is going to see a very sharp incline, and then we want to wean the county off because we want Putnam County to be sustainable. Use the resources available, fund them, and then make ourselves completely self-reliant. So 2020, we'll see a high number of federal dollars, but after that, we want to see a lot of that dip off because the county will be able to to stand on its own. The poverty level, I know we had seen some additional numbers. Has any, where's Terry? Y'all are spread out. Okay. Percentage of population in poverty. Has that number has gone down, I believe,
The last number I have, Kat, was a little over 10%.
in government housing.
Government,
Okay.
and government housing, yes, and
Okay.
yes. So, yes, I believe the poverty level may have changed slightly, but I hadn't got those numbers, so, finalized yet.
Okay. And I know my chamber friends are here. Yes?
Yeah, actually, I was looking this morning, the poverty rate in Putnam County has dropped to 19.9%.
Perfect.
Those are U.S. Census Bureau numbers.
For this year, right? All right, then we're going to adjust that goal with the blessing of everyone in the room. We want to take that to 15, yes? All right, we can make it happen. And as Terry pointed out, 10.4%? 10.4% in government housing. We want to take that number. We're number one in the state. We want to get out of the top 10. And those are our goals looking at 2020. So the reason why we have these goals established is because if we don't know where we want to be, we have no idea where we're going. And if anybody has any questions on these particular goals or numbers, I'll be happy to entertain questions at the end of this. Yes, Mr. Bennett. Yes. Absolutely, and that's actually one of the things I'm going to address in the pillars. So thank you for bringing that up. One of the ways that we envision this project happening is building all of our projects that we want to see into a set of pillars. That way there is a transparent and accountable way that we can get from A to Z. So the first pillar is the recovery pillar. We've all been hit hard by not just Irma, but Matthew, and the county has had some issues in getting some money back reimbursed from Hurricane Matthew. I had an email exchange with FEMA and the state as well as Ryan. Ryan, are you here today? Is Ryan Simpson our emergency county manager here? Okay. Well, we had an email exchange with all of the outstanding payments. We are working to get those resolved as soon as possible. And that is a combination, again, of the local county, the state, and then FEMA working together to push these through as quickly as possible. I know that there are some folks here that have specific questions about reimbursement on private property and roads that have been washed out. I'll be happy to entertain those again at the end of the presentation. But whenever you're working on a big project, we have found that it's great for momentum and buy-in if you can get early wins. And getting these project worksheets for all these community facilities and roads, bridges, et cetera, that have been damaged in these storms, if we can get those fixed, that's one step closer to getting Putnam County moving forward. So it's an early win, and we see this one already underway. So after recovery, we're moving into the stability pillar. The stability pillar is the most critical, and this is what you're going to see the most of next year. This includes education, infrastructure, and current industry. Now, under the education subheading, we're going to form a subcommittee that will have a direct interest in getting our education system up to that 80% graduation rate. We have done everything from chat with Department of Education in Washington to the congressman speaking with the governor about programs that can fund this pillar, as well as the local Putnam County School Board has a list of initiatives that they see that we can help fund and work with them to get that education and graduation rate up. Under the infrastructure, we've identified a couple of key projects, wastewater systems, new water lines, broadband. These are the critical things that we have to have in place before we can really start courting companies and looking at ways that we can stimulate the local economy. We can't bring in companies, and we can't even really support our current industry or education system unless we have these things in place. So we are going to be laser focused on these three subheadings: education, infrastructure, current industry, and that, like I said, will be a very strong rollout in Q1, Q2, Q3. Moving on, the next pillar will be growth, economic development, tourism, housing. There will be a little bit of housing under the stability pillar, so I don't want people to think that we're not going to address some of the housing issues that are critical right away, but housing under the growth pillar is really going to encompass neighborhood developments, 55 plus communities, things that are really going to help us bring in new workforce and house our population here. I know we have an inventory that is an aging inventory of homes, and so we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to, again, make Putnam County not the best place to work, but also the best place to live. And the two underneath these pillars, accountability and engagement. Beginning in January, we are going to roll out a complete suite of social media marketing options that includes Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. Project Putnam is going to have its own campaign that will keep the public at large engaged with every project that we're undertaking, every meeting that's been taking place, and there's going to be accountability through and through. What we're doing today, you being here, is part of that engagement pillar, the stakeholder buy-in. You all have a stake in Putnam County and seeing this project succeed. So we're going to establish regular communication with all stakeholders so you know exactly what's happening and when. And we're going to invest some pretty serious money, the congressman is, in a dedicated outreach that includes radio, mail, doing things that haven't traditionally been done by a congressional office. It's going to be done. So I'm very excited. And one of the things on here, the quarterly reporting, our office will generate a quarterly report on the 15th of the following month, kind of like your quarterly tax payments if you run a business. You will get a quarterly report from our office that details exactly what projects are on the books, where they are at, and who is responsible for them, so that if someone's not doing their job, you can hold them accountable. And believe me, Congressman Yoho will be holding people accountable on this project. And it's a way for you all to hold us accountable. So we're excited about that. I know we talked a little bit about recovery. We're going to see the complete A through G projects, which is our public works, debris removal, et cetera. That, like I said, is getting close to being wrapped up. So we're excited about that. That'll be a great win. Stability, identifying industry clusters. Some of the industry clusters that we identified back on the November 29th meeting was an agri-cluster, a technology cluster, a manufacturing cluster, which would focus on advanced manufacturing, a tourism cluster, utilizing the resources we have with the St. Johns River, such as mega bass fishing tournaments, collegiate national championships, and ecotourism. And then we're going to also, as part of the stability pillar, we're going to include plotting the industrial park, which has been kind of an issue in the past. So we're going to do that. And we also have some dollars earmarked for reannexation to help clear up the lines between county and city jurisdiction. So I hope that helps everyone, law enforcement included. Again, an enthusiastic nod from our law enforcement. All right, and then vocational training. I know we have a few ideas on the books already as to what we're going to do with our educational subcommittee. If you have any ideas, again, when it comes to public comment period, I encourage you to speak up. We know pretty much what we're looking for. We just need the community to support us and get this done. So far, we've identified the wastewater treatment, the water lines. This includes South Putnam. I don't want Willaco or Crescent City to feel like they're being left out. And of course, we haven't forgot West Putnam County. We have our eye on Interlochen as well. This is a county-wide initiative. This does not leave any municipality or city out. So we are aware of the issues in Crescent City. Countywide broadband, we're working with not just our federal partners, but some private partners, some big companies, Fortune 500 companies, that they may be able to use us as a pilot. Space Florida has been in talks with us for a couple months about this, and it's very exciting. So we'll know more about that come January. And then any other additional priorities that are identified by this group here today. And then, of course, supporting our workforce, developing a workforce. And again, not every kid needs to go to college. Not every kid wants to go to college. But we do need our traditional VOTEC workers, our welders, our plumbers, electricians. We need to support that industry, and we have the perfect population to do so and get into not only just the basic VOTEC, but the advanced manufacturing. So I know we have some projects on the books already, but wanted to open that up for discussion when we get to that part. And then again, growth. Economic development is going to be the priority moving forward. Those industry clusters. We don't want to be a county that just takes whatever comes to us. That's a bad way to grow. It's an inefficient way to grow. And it can be a little bit dicey if you're giving big tax packages to companies or industries that your county cannot support or does not want to support. So we want to identify industries that their values are the same as ours. Again, we talked about workforce development, targeting niche infrastructure projects, things like dredging the port here. We've got some marine manufacturers. We've already been in talks with the state and the federal government about the Shands Bridge. We have had that report that was supposed to be generated in 2023. We had it expedited to the beginning of next year. Raising Shands Bridge would give all of our marine manufacturers here in the county an opportunity to actually do more and to get their work product out. So niche projects like that is what we're going to be identifying, and then again, additional priorities that you talk about here today. And we talked a little bit about the tourism opportunities. Terry can tell you when he first met me, I guess y'all would never guess this about me, but I was president of the Bass Fishing Club in college. And I have a soft spot for bass fishing tournaments. It turns out they are incredible economic drivers as well. Alabama has an incredible state program. It generates almost $1 billion in economic activity every year. And the Collegiate Bass Fishing Championship every year is close to 700 million, I want to say. And it brings in kids from all over the country. These types of events, if we can get the hotel beds that can support these types of functions, we're going to do a great service to our local small business owners and the county, because it is going to be an incredible mechanism for growth. So if you want to talk fishing, I'll be happy to do that. And again, housing, identifying opportunities at the county level to streamline the building process. I had a great meeting in Washington last week with HUD. I spoke with 18 of their program directors and basically laid out the situation in Putnam County and said, what can we do? And they laid out a suite of options and said, this is what we need to do, here's what I would recommend here. And they said, but we will also send a team down to Florida from Washington to identify some of these needs and really start working on this housing issue now. So we're very excited about that. Mr. Bates, you talked about this a little bit. When we talk about the housing needs and the affordable housing and how we're number one in government housing, our goal is not to move anyone out into a worse system. Our goal is to increase resources so that people can find permanent, quality housing that is affordable. That is our goal. And that is the congressman texting me. I apologize. Sorry. So again, please don't misunderstand that we're trying to put people on the street. This is absolutely not what we are trying to do. We want to make it so that people have options, and it's affordable, and it's safe, and it's a hand up. So again, when HUD comes down in Q1, Q2, they're going to be talking in depth about that, and I encourage you, if you're interested in that topic, to please come to that meeting. And then again, hotels, we need to increase the number of beds that we have in the county. If we're going to be serious about establishing a tourism cluster, we have to get serious about creating a hotel system here that can support that industry. So one of the things, I'm looking at the chamber, y'all are on the radar for that one. And again, accountability, establishing tangible goals, what we did earlier. We will be issuing the quarterly report. And then the key thing here is going to be clearly defining who is responsible for what. I think in years past, it has been, oh, well, I thought this person was doing this, or I thought that group was doing this. No, it will be black and white in writing. These are the people working on these projects, and if something's not happening, you can hold them accountable. And again, we talked a little bit about the engagement that's going to take place. The priorities that we generate here today will be incorporated into this program and into this vision. And then our hard ask for our elected officials here today is that come January, you adopt Project Putnam via resolution, saying that you will work on this with us. And that way it is in writing that you guys are on board with this. So that is going to be for all our elected officials in the room. I know you guys really can't do that, but you can do it in writing. Well, sort of. Please consider that for all of our commissioners, county commissioners, city commissioners, mayors, et cetera. And then again, with the rollout of the social marketing component in January, we're also going to be building a website specific to Project Putnam that will allow us intranet communication for all the stakeholders. And of course, I will be on this project from start to finish, so if you need any questions answered or anything, you'll be able to get a hold of me. And beyond 2020, we would like Putnam County and our stakeholders to start thinking about a vision. What does Putnam County look like in 30 years? Does anybody know of a national vision for America? There is none. And that's the problem. What you see in the headlines every day, that crisis management, the headline of the day, that's what drives the national agenda. And we can't do that. We can't follow that suit. That's one thing that the congressman is working on in Washington and changing that culture. We have to change our mindset down here. We have to be thinking long term, because it's not just about us today, it's about our children. And what are we going to do to make our children stay in this county, work and thrive in this county, and then our grandkids? We have to be thinking long term. So some ideas that I would like from you all today is, what do you see Putnam County looking like in 30 years? Alachua, over in Alachua County, is the biotech hub, I would venture, of the country. The Sid Martin Biotech is a spinoff of University Research. It is the #1 biotech incubator in the world. No joke, the world. 4 years in a row. It's beat out countries with subsidized incubators. It beat out Singapore, South Korea. #1 incubator, and they still have a little Main Street, and they still have that hometown, small town feel. But they are drawing top talent from around the world to come and work there and live there. It's possible. There are neighbors just to the west. We can work with them, and we can use the resources of the university, both UF and St. John's here, to create what we're looking at in 30 years. So I encourage you, as you sit here today, please think about a long-term vision of what you want to see. And so today, that is our big ask. Everything that we generate here today, all ideas, will be built into the pillar framework. If there are some additional stakeholders that you know of that are not here today, please feel free to let me know, or Hannah. Hannah's sitting over here. And then the meeting that we will be doing all of our subcommittees, I'm looking at January 26th, so please take a look at your calendars. And that is my contact information if you need to get me. Are there any questions? Lively crowd. Come on now. This can be interactive. We can make this fun, I promise. No questions. Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to open it up to our elected officials. Mr. Keith Perry, our state senator, if you could join us and give us a brief talk about what you see at the state level. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Good morning. Good morning. Wow, what a crowd. I don't know, when Kat called me about this, I thought I'd come over here and 10 or 15 people. This is what I was used to having at these kind of events. So to have this crowd this morning shows what's capable. And that's really the question I think that you have to ask is, what is it and what is it going to take to change and transform Putnam County and Palatka into what Kat was talking about and what you envision that. And if you just look at one thing, you look at graduation rates, you look at those, and they said the rates here and they said over in St. Johns County. Well, kids are kids. It's the environment, and it's what kind of environment we put them in. It's going to give them the best opportunity, and that's the way we look at it, and the way I look at it in all of those. You have as much opportunity in Putnam County as any place in the state, any place in the nation to be successful and make that happen. I like what you said, Kat, and that is that it's pretty clear in the Bible. You have to have a vision, and without a vision, the people perish. So if you don't have a vision, if you don't know where you're going, you're just going to happenstance, and it's more reactionary how you deal with things instead of being proactive. So just a couple of quick things that we all understand as basics. Infrastructure. We're working on some of those things now. We've been meeting with some of the representatives from here, and we're going to be working on those infrastructure projects on a state level. Certainly the talent and the educational model that we talked about. One of the things that I've pushed for the last few years is early childhood development. I'm in the roofing business. My father was a professor at the University of Florida. I had a sister and brother graduate there, another sister in North Carolina. I barely made it through high school. So I never would have thought that in Tallahassee I'd be thinking about early childhood education development, but I think that's one of the key things that we have to do and look at both locally and on statewide. And if you think about how important that is today, and we're going to be at a crisis soon, and I'll give you my thoughts on that. They built a new McDonald's in Gainesville. You go in there, there's kiosk for order takers. And so we're replacing the order takers. In 5, 10, 15 years, you're going to have delivery vehicles that are going to be autonomous. You're going to have most factory and repetitive motion jobs are going to be replaced by robotics. And so what we do is we take this group of young people, and if we don't educate them in the new technologies and this new economy, we're going to take a large portion of our youth and we're going to make them permanently unemployed. And the permanent unemployed are going to find something to do, and that's when our sheriff and law enforcement is going to get involved, unfortunately. And let me tell you how rapidly and things are changing just in that, and why I say it's at a crisis. As we move into this new technology and change in robotics and CNC machines, we have now in Gainesville, I was just meeting, I met the last couple of weeks with the gang prevention group there at the Gainesville Police Department. I've met with the chief of police several times now. Gainesville, Florida, I'm not sure about Palatka, but Gainesville, Florida has all of the major gangs in the city, except for MS-13. All the other major gangs, the Bloods, the Crips, the things you think about in Chicago or Los Angeles are in Gainesville, Florida. And this is the part that why it's in crisis. One facility, Lake City Correctional Facility for juveniles. Now, these are kids who have been direct filed. They've done something to be charged as an adult or sent to a prison, not probation, not some of the other programs they have there. Out of the 620 inmates in that facility, about 96% are estimated to be in major gangs. Now, they weren't in a major gang when they got arrested and sent away. They became the influences in the prison themselves. So the majority of these young people are going to be returning to our cities and our towns, not as someone who made a spontaneous, poor decision, but now they're going to come back and it's going to be a premeditated decision they're going to make to influence and to promote their gang activity. So these are things that are happening today at a rapid pace. I'm going to be working with some of my colleagues, Representative Payne and some others, on how we're going to stop this proliferation of these major gangs. They're coming back to your community. And that's going to change. And as we give people nothing to do, these young people nothing to do, again, they're going to be doing something. And so it's important that we look at that. Just a couple other things I'm going to look at, and we talked about, one of the commissioners talked about home rule. And I can tell you my position on home rule, so you'll hear that a lot. Anytime that we can give power back to your city and county commissioners, to the school boards, we're going to do that. The only time I ever step in on home rule issues is when I feel like cities or counties are taking power away from individuals that needs to be restored to them. So I never look at a bill that would take home rule away from a city and county unless it gave the power back to you as individuals, which I think is the purest form of home rule, is to have individuals be able to lead their own lives and make their own decisions. So outside of those issues, we will be trying to push things back down on the city and county level as much as we can. There's some other things that statewide make sense. 5G is the new networks for infrastructure and wireless communications. 5G, well, they have small, they have to be low located, these transformer boxes that have to be everywhere. They're about the size of a mini fridge. Well, we had cities and counties wanted to dictate the color of them, how they were built, what they looked like. And if you can imagine, just think about that, where we needed a statewide mandate on that. If you could imagine the electrical distribution, if every city and county said, well, we don't want a transformer that's green and round. We want a transformer that looks to match our town. Well, you can understand that progress would be slow in coming in those kind of situations. So you're going to see those kind of issues that I'll push, and when it makes sense statewide that we have to push things in that to keep industry going forward and let that happen. Business, tax climate, obviously those are things that we're going to draw people down here to not just Putnam County, but in the state. We have to have those. One of the biggest issues that I've been working on is workman's comp reform. As a roofing contractor, back in 2003, I paid 55% for just workman's comp. You can imagine with rates out, we went down to about 18, so we were the highest or second highest in the nation back at that time. We got down to about the middle of the state. The Supreme Court made a ruling that you could not cap attorney's fees, and you're going to see those rates go back up. Well, those rates do two things. They stop the kind of work, manufacturing, which is important, the missing link of an economy in our state, and they also hurt the working class people more than anything. And so I've worked on that. I've had some progress, not as much as I'd like in that, but we're going to continue to work on the workman's comp issue and some of the other ones. And just to let you know, and I'll use this as an example, but if you think about workman's comp alone, so when my rates were 55%, and also with all the others, Social Security and all the other things, I had a direct and indirect labor burden of 120%. So if I have someone making $18 an hour and I want to give them a $2 an hour raise, I got to give them a $4.40 an hour raise. So maybe in a hyper competitive market, what I want to do is find the $18 person and replace them with a $16 an hour person. And that's just the forces of an economy in a competitive market. So the wages are at a suppressed level or pushed down on those terms when we have things like that. And then the other thing is, it's kind of a double whammy for these working class people, is because every single thing that they need in life costs them more money. Not the things they don't need, not the accessories, not TV sets and things like that, but the necessities in life: housing, daycare, all of those kind of things. Energy, electricity and stuff cost them more money. So those are the kind of things we have to look at, these fundamental foundational levels that drive cost up and keep working class people suppressed in their wages and their disposable income. So we're going to work on that. And not to take too much time on this, but I think about affordable housing, and we talk about that a lot in Tallahassee. In Tallahassee and in Washington, some of the other places, affordable housing, to solve that problem, we have a fund up there called the Sadowski Fund, about a couple $100 million, where we take money from documentary stamps. So we tax real estate transactions to fund, so we even drive up the real estate cost. But we use that to fund affordable housing. And we do that through grants and first-time buyers and some other things. What I find a little bit frustrating at times is nobody asks the question of, why is housing unaffordable? It wasn't 35 years ago. Matter of fact, there was a study done on the three number one increases in cost of living for the average working family. Taxes, we pay 25% more today. Healthcare, we pay 72% more today. And housing was the number one increase, at 74% increase in the cost of housing. And so instead of saying, well, what is the driving forces that make housing unaffordable, we look at, say, well, let's have a Sadowski Fund and give people grants and subsidies. That's not the way that you solve problems. And I'm not saying we get rid of the Sadowski Fund. That's not the issue. The issue is, let's at least be inquisitive and look at these things and say, what can we do as a government? And that's what I do, and that's what Representative Payne's doing. We're looking at those things and saying, what can we do to bring those costs down? And there's plenty to do. Just talk with some people who are in the development business, and you can find out from them how much it costs per lot, government regulations, to build a house to start with. And are those things protecting you and I and protecting the environment and protecting the public? Are they doing that and also driving the cost up substantially where there's not a cost-benefit analysis being even done on that? So we're going to look at those. We've got a bunch of other things we're going to be looking at. I can tell you this, that Representative Payne and I have a great relationship. Putnam County is important. I know it's important to Bobby. It's important to me. We're going to do everything we can to work together on the House and Senate side. Everything we do in the Senate, everything done in the House, you have to have a companion on both sides to get anything done. And so you're going to find us working together, making things happen. We've got leadership on the House side coming out in Bobby's class, Representative Payne's out of Palm Coast area. And we may have a Senate president out of St. Johns County who used to be your senator. We'll see how that plays out. But there's things that are in line, some stars are aligning to make North Central Florida an area where we have great representation in Tallahassee, where we've always been kind of forgotten anywhere in North Central Florida, and a lot of just the more rural areas, that politics have been dominated by South Florida and some of the urban areas, the I-4 corridor. I said this before, you're looking at your state senator, you're looking at your state representative, and you share us with multiple other counties. Miami-Dade has 24 members in their caucus. You've got 2. So you can understand the numbers don't add up. But things are aligning, things are working where I think we're going to see some power shift, and it needs to. We don't need to have all of the power associated in certain big or urban areas. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about some of the opportunities. It's going to be a lot of work, as it always is, but you know, that's what we're up for, that challenge, and I'm looking forward again to serving. You got a great representative, Bobby. I'll let him share some words on it, but I'm excited about serving. I'm excited about representing Putnam County. You've got tremendous opportunity here, and we're going to do our part, and I know you're going to do your part by evidence of you showing up here this morning. I don't know if you want to do any questions or you want to wait till. Do y'all have any questions for me? All right, well, listen, thanks again. I'm going to have to leave a little bit. I got another meeting I've got to be at back in Gainesville a little bit, but y'all know how to get in touch with me. Staj works in our state office here, too, and he's going to stay around for a while. If you don't have my contact information, you can get with Kat. She can give you my cell phone number. She can give you my personal email address. A lot of you other people have that already. Make sure you call me on any time on any issue. I'll meet you over here. I'll meet with one person, or I'll meet with 10 people, or we'll meet with a room this size. So I'm available. We go into session January 9th. I won't be as available for the next 60 days after that. But please contact me with any issues or concerns that you have. And like I say, I'm excited about the future and the direction that we're going to go. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Representative Payne.
Thank you, Kat. So I prepared a few notes, but in an effort not to be redundant, with the commonality of what we've heard this morning. Well, if I put that up there, I know we can't see it. So first of all, thank you for attending today. It's vitally important that we have those in the crowd today, and I want to thank Kat and Congressman Yoho and Senator Perry. I can tell you from day one, they've been on board for Putnam County, and we're seeing it manifested itself today. Kat asked me just to give you a few thoughts on what I see with the project going forward, and I'll speak in generalities and some commonalities, as you've heard already today. I think it's so important, as Senator Perry mentioned, that you build relationships with colleagues in the legislature. And those relationships manifest themselves into other opportunities. When you have a congressman, hello? When you have a congressman like Congressman Yoho and his staff that have taken the interest they have in Putnam County, you have a senator that's come along and really stepped up to the plate. As Senator Perry mentioned, we are outnumbered by a large part by the delegations in the South. But then you have representatives from other areas that are working just as hard for you and pulling just as hard for you for your local projects as they are for theirs, because they know you'll support them. And Representative Travis Cummings and Senator Rob Bradley and my roommate, Paul Renner. Paul wanted to be here today, but I know he had to go to Jacksonville. Paul is a future Speaker of the House. So we have some stars aligning for us that will be very beneficial in the future years. Some of the areas that I looked at in the pillars of success that we see for Putnam Forward is stability and growth. Those are the areas that we have talked about. I'll say we've danced around the pool and walked around the pool for years and years. Now it's time to jump in and feel how cold the water is. And it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be tough simply because those are issues that we're competing with other rural communities, other counties, to put ourselves in a position where we can pull ourselves up from those low statistics that we have. Some of the primary goals, and I rate them as primary and secondary goals. Some of the primary goals for us, obviously, are better infrastructure opportunities. We say highways, rails, water, air, and internet connections, internet services. 5G will be a network, as Senator Perry spoke about, that we will see eventually, but it'll come to rural communities last. It will start in large cities and in big areas where there's a big influx of dollars from private industry. But I think if you continue to look at infrastructure growth and you see projects like GP's new paper project, $420 million worth of I think it's 420, right, Terry? Is that right? $420 million of influx of dollars for the new paper machine. Seminole is building a new gas plant I won't give you a number on that, but it's a startling number that will mean big tax dollars to us. You see HCA has purchased Putnam Community Health Center. You see outgrowth from that. You see the new cancer center that Dr. Curvell is partnering with the hospital with. Those are good opportunities for growth and health education. FPL, building solar facilities throughout this area. They're committed to our community. So this will provide this net effect of net job growth. But the outer beltway coming through Clay County will feel overlap and growth opportunities from that. We just need to be prepared for those areas as that overlap continues to come through Clay County. At the same time, we need to hold on to current jobs. Technologies will drastically change the face of what we're seeing. I think rural communities will be secondary to, again, the major cities, but it will change what we're seeing. True statement by Senator Perry. We've heard a lot in the legislature about robotics, about replacing jobs in manufacturing with robotics. That will happen. We need to bridge the gap that we currently have and the skills gap to make sure we can put people back to work. And as we put people back to work, that outgrowth in the economy will spill over into other opportunities. The second primary goal, in my opinion, is education. You heard Kat reference often. And so I can say we've worked with President Joe Pickens at St. John's River State College, Superintendent Cernsey, to look at how we can provide better opportunities with technical education, VOTEC, with agriculture, and other skilled craft labor jobs, whether they're in high tech, whether they're in manufacturing, whether they're in day-to-day skilled labor jobs. You know, what's great about the opportunity for our graduates as they graduate to go into a skilled labor position is they can go to work in an apprentice program, as we establish apprentice programs, even get a 2-year degree, and go to work and start making $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year and not have $100,000 worth of debt for paying off college. That's big. I have a legislative aide that is a double degree major from Florida State, no booze. And Wayne, I'll expect a cheer from you. And he has a law degree. His debt is startling. He said, I may never pay it off. So he's continuing to work on it, but it was incomprehensible to me to understand how much debt he has as a graduate. You know, we expect, and we know what the stats are for Putnam County, but we expect 6 million new people to come to live in Florida, a net growth of 6 million people. That's in addition to what we have. So we would be at 26 million people projected by 2030. That represents challenges, but it represents a lot of opportunities for us in rural communities. A lot of those folks moving south have to come through North Florida, and we expect the opportunity to grasp some of those opportunities in retirement. I've heard Commissioner Terry Turner talk about retirement communities. We could be a mecca for retirement opportunities because of the recreational opportunities we have here, improving health care. Those would be great booms in housing and opportunities for us to have folks that are retired, don't have kids in the school system, and are still paying taxes. That makes sense to us. Let me say in closing just a few things. I want to introduce Leota Wilkinson. She is my district representative. Leota, if you wave your hand. So we're accessible. We're located here in Putnam County. We have an office in Bradford County, and of course our office in Tallahassee. Make sure you contact us about issues so that we can help move this ball along as we go forward. But I can't emphasize enough the opportunities to work with elected officials, both city, county, state, and federal officials, to move our needle forward and to be successful. I'll tell you that when I decided I would run for office several years ago, after much convincing from some in the crowd, I didn't run to maintain the status quo. If I were running to maintain the status quo, there was no need to run. So I'm running because the things you're hearing today, because the opportunities we have before us, because the things that we can do for our youth to make Putnam County a better place. We have the stakeholders in the room to make that happen. So it's nice to see a congressman, city and local officials, state officials, a senator, that we can put our oars in the water and row in the same direction. So we have to do that. We have to do that to improve the opportunities we have for our youth and improve the opportunities and the challenges that we're faced with on a day-to-day basis. We'll take questions at the end, but it's really a privilege and a pleasure to be here to talk to you today. I'm glad to see this many people in the room, and I'm glad to see the commitment from what we have from our elected officials. Thank you.
I know we have a few additional elected officials in the room that are queued up to speak. Are there any questions for either myself, on behalf of Congressman Yoho, Representative Payne, or Senator Perry? Going once, going twice. All right. Before we move into the next speaker, I forgot to mention something, just a little nugget for you to think about. If you are a bookworm like me, this is a copy of the National Security Strategy that was released about 72 hours ago. Or if you have insomnia, it's good for that too. No one likes to read this stuff, but why I mention it, it's very important. President Trump has, with this rollout of his national security strategy, he has specifically outlined, I'm going to read for you, these items in this strategy. Improve American infrastructure. To your point, Senator Perry, we will improve America's digital infrastructure by deploying a secure 5G internet capability nationwide. Very important. Second thing, support education and apprenticeship programs. And it says, we will support apprenticeships and workforce development programs that prepare American workers for high-wage manufacturing, advanced manufacturing, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics jobs of the 21st century. Later on in this report, it goes on to specifically target technology and cyber and developing a workforce for cyber. If you are unaware, we are a hub, we are a mecca of sorts for defense in Northeast Florida. We have Mayport, NAS Jax, Camp Blanding, Cecil Field, Blunt Island, and several other smaller installations surrounding this area. We have the opportunity to not just support our county, but really support and build the next workforce, cyber workforce for our national security. And these are not just words on a page. We have actually sat down with the president talking specifically, I don't know what that is.
3 minutes is up.
My 3 minutes is up. We have a commitment from the president himself. The congressman sat across the table from him, and we have a commitment from the president that these projects will be funded. I have a feeling that's my Gmail on the computer ringing.
Someone was calling you through your Gmail.
My apologies. Thank you. So again, as we move through the presentations and talks today, please think about ways that we can here in Putnam County take advantage of the opportunities that have been laid out by the president and his national security team. And if you want a copy of this, I'll be happy to send you a copy of the national security strategy. Again, it's great for insomnia if you can't sleep at night. But with that, we're going to move on to our next elected official. I have on tap Commissioner Larry Harvey. Would you and any of the other commissioners, Mr. Turner, I think we have Mr. Buddy in the room. I can't see y'all. I'm very short, so I apologize. If you guys would like to speak.
Thank you very.
Here.
Thank you very much. Kat, when we, the Trump administration reached out to county commissioners throughout the nation and found ourselves in Washington, at that time we took our interim county administrator, Mr. Stacy Manning, I did. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. So we took our interim county administrator, Stacy Manning, with us, and we went up to Washington, and the question was about the FEMA reimbursement. We found out that the federal government had done a great job in releasing those funds, but the state had some drag down on it. So we got with Representative Payne, Senator Perry, our small county coalition, and we really, through Florida Association of Counties, really kind of said, we need this money. Because it was, as this county is, we don't have any reserves left. And our reserves are very minimal. So Hurricane Matthew reimbursement was very important. So we've gotten a lot of that reimbursement from Matthew, and now, thank God, because we needed it for Irma, and that was the problem. I think the big problem that we face when we look at all the things that we look down the pillars of what we're trying to do. And Representative Payne, thank you. It's time to get in the pool, and it's time to swim. And I appreciate that comment. But we look at, as a county commissioner, my frustration level is when the citizen calls and says, my debris is not being picked up. You live on a private road. My road is flooded. You live on a private road. And then we might go out there and do something to alleviate, but we base it on we can't get reimbursement, so we're not going to be able to do anything on private roads. Now, there's a legal problem about us being on private roads too, and I understand that. But the comment at the end of the day is, I pay taxes. Do I need to stop paying taxes? I get all that. But I think what we need to look at, when we look at all the pillars and we look at the appearance of Putnam County, we need to be able to move our recovery process, regardless whether it's private or public, faster in that arena. And maybe, possibly, the county could set aside some money, state could set aside some money and say, okay, if it's private, here's the fund that you can come out of. But we don't need this stuff, because what happened, we told people, take your stuff off the private road, put it on the public road. Well, some of these roads just got repaved, some of them just got resodded. You should have saw the mess that was going on. That doesn't look good for Putnam County. So I think going into the future, instead of looking in the rearview mirror, we need to go and say, how can we make this process better? And I think some type of how we can help our citizens who live on private roads, how can we make their life better for recovery when that goes forward? Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'm glad that you brought that up. That's been a recurring problem, not just in Putnam County, but we hear that over and over again. I live on a private road. I know several of you in this room live on a private road, and it's one of the challenges that we face when a natural disaster like Hurricane Matthew or Hurricane Irma roll through. I actually had a call with FEMA a few months ago about this very issue, and I talked to our congressional liaison yesterday in anticipation for a question like this. The short answer is, and I hope that you can share this with folks, the federal government cannot reimburse counties, or, well, effectively it'd be the state, and then the state funnels the money to the county, cannot reimburse for work done for anything A through G, meaning debris removal, facilities, roads, bridges, et cetera, on private property. They cannot. There is only one little loophole there, and that is called the Private Property Debris Removal Program. Do y'all remember the tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri a couple years ago? If you remember the photos from that, homes were in other people's yards. You couldn't distinguish where the road began or a person's yard. It was the worst of the worst of the worst. That scenario is only when the federal government will reimburse on private property for that program. That is the only time. They won't cover debris removal for a situation like how we all had to put all our stuff on the side of the road. They just won't. The recommendation from FEMA is that private roads and the neighbors and residents that live around there, if you have an HOA, the HOA needs to work with SBA, which is the Small Business Administration. They are the #1 agency when dealing with rebuilding and debris removal when it comes to these types of groups, not FEMA. So I know it's very, very frustrating when you live on a private road and your neighbors across the street are getting their debris picked up and you're not. I get it. Trust me, I'm right there with you. But the best advice that I got from FEMA, because it also is a state issue, and the state statute doesn't allow for it either, because they're trying to maintain consistency across the state and federal level. So if you know of people that are in that boat, please have them get with their homeowners association so that they can then talk to SBA collectively as a group and apply for assistance. That would probably mean, and this is just what goes with living on a private road, applying for a low interest guaranteed loan that the homeowners would then pay back. I know that's not the best answer, but that is the answer. So I hope that helps. On another road-related issue, I know Ocala National Forest has been kind of a sore spot for some folks. One of the things that we'll be working with the county on, and I'm looking at you, Stacy, is our Schedule A agreements with Ocala National Forest, and that way we can get some clarity on who is responsible for what. Because I think as a citizen, the biggest frustration is when you call the forest, oh no, that's county property, or that's a county issue, and then you call the county, and the county says, oh no, that's the Forest Service. You don't like being messed around with like that. I think we all just need to be on the same page when it comes to who has responsibility for what roads. So I hope that gives a little clarity on the debris removal issue, at least from a federal standpoint. Senator Perry, Representative Payne, any comments on that?
Is this on? No, I think you covered it very well, Kat. Larry, we feel your pain. Unfortunately, there's probably not a lot of private citizens in our area that are in homeowners associations. So it makes it very challenging. Don't know what the answer is. Talked with some folks at Economic Development Conference last week, and we heard a couple of things, though, I would mention, and that is if there's disaster recovery and you're declared in that disaster recovery area, it's very important to file early. You must file early. You really should have a contingency plan by county to file early so that you can identify those areas, because that allotment of money will come earlier, and there's diminishing returns the longer you wait. So that's important to know. Wish I had a better answer for you. It's probably a common question we've had in our office, wouldn't you say, Leota, throughout this event. And we have to get better at how we address it. Not sure what the answers are.
Does anybody have any questions about that specific issue with private property, FEMA reimbursement? No? County manager? Yeah. Okay. If I can get there you are. Mr. Mayor, Mayor Terrell Hill, you're on deck, sir. And Vice Mayor Lawson Brown. There you are. I feel your pain. Ted's like 6'2" and I'm 5'3", so every time I'm walking behind him, nobody knows I'm there.
She's an inch shorter.
Oh, but they know I'm here.
That's right.
There you go.
I like it.
So good morning.
Good morning.
We bring you greetings from the city of Palaca. I'm here with my my young vice mayor, who's been around for a number of years and has really been instrumental in a lot of the initiatives that we have going forward at this time. Terry, you know in your former life that we work diligently to really start to bring attention to a lot of the matters, both in the city and the county. And what we did today was we kind of created a wish list of sorts. I've got really a core team of folks who are here in the room as well, from the city, from the fire department to the police department, as well as public works, our interim city manager and our projects manager. But the things that are most critical, without being extremely redundant on some of the issues, are the infrastructure, and that's throughout the county. But we see an opportunity through changes in annexation ordinances, things of that nature, to really start to bring essential infrastructure, water, gas, sewer, into the outlying county areas. When you look at the 32177 zip code, for example, although there's only 10,000 people in the city, there's 25,000 people within that zip code who essentially would benefit from having those services available to them. We've worked diligently with the county. We've planned on having additional meetings with the county joint board meetings to talk about ways in which we can square up our urban service boundaries. I think the assistance in providing that infrastructure becomes critical to the development, both from a commercial standpoint as well. But tourism is a critical component of Palaca that we really have not, and also the county, that we haven't taken advantage of the rich history, the economic aspects, the ecotourism aspects, or even sports tourism. When we look at Palaca, for example, having been a community that had a minor league baseball team, we've got a historic stadium, and there's a perfect opportunity. We've got Major League Baseball coming in here tomorrow to actually look at that opportunity the history from the Negro League as well as the Palaca azaleas to see if there's an opportunity to use the azalea bowl, for example, and I'm sure the superintendent doesn't realize that we're talking about that, but to use the azalea bowl, for example, as a way to drive the economy. And if we can get those commitments and those investments, it creates additional opportunities that we haven't looked at, the trailheads, for example, or other places. But when we talk about that as well, one of the most pressing issues we have is the railroad, Amtrak's conversation about getting rid of the local station. But there's an opportunity to put in a manned station, which will be a significant driver for our community, for biking, for kayaking, for all those ecotourism aspects to hit the trails. And if we can get any type of stability from Amtrak or some commitment long term to keep that station in place, to have it manned, and to be able to put those resources there, it really starts to push it. We've had the A. Philip Randolph Institute and the conference actually be very involved in that process. They're interested, they're based out of Philadelphia, and they're interested in doing whatever's necessary to try to help keep that here. Intermodal transportation, the creation of that intermodal transportation hub within the city becomes critical for that. Also, the Wilson Cypress Mill project, we're looking at creating a CRA for that particular area. And also even looking at the need for maybe a land trust to be able to attract developers or someone to that area. It's 70 acres, about 35 buildable, but it's a large piece of property that could be critical for housing needs within the city where you have existing infrastructure already, as well as being able to create the additional destination within the city of Palaca. One of the things that's very interesting, and I think the sheriff's office will probably talk a little bit more about this, is just from the standpoint of communications. Chief Grimes has really indicated to us, along with Chief Shaw, that we find ourselves in a very desperate situation when it comes to the system that we have in place, and even upgrading to the new system with the loss of communication in some of the older buildings, or the metal buildings, or the steel buildings, or the concrete structures, and the need for repeaters and things of that nature to make sure that our first responders are placed in a situation where they have constant communication. And so when we start talking about communications upgrades and that $20 million upgrade need within our system, those are things that we have to look at from the city side. We're talking several $100,000 just to get us into a position where, you know, we can ensure that safety will be in place as it relates to those issues. When we talk about housing, and housing is one of the critical components of what we have in place and one of our priorities, there's a lot of conversation about public housing and the 10.7% public housing, but more so we need to look at, I think when we look at everything, we oftentimes say that if you want to resuscitate a dying city, and we're no longer a dying city, but you have to restore people. And it starts with a change in culture. It can't just be a shot in the arm. It has to be something that's long-term, something sustainable that builds people over a time period. And I think that conversation starts with Mr. Nelson and the Housing Authority and having him to the table, and I'm glad to see him here today. But one of the ways to do that, and me and Mr. Nelson talk, is to really is when we start to decentralize really project-based housing, is to be able to create smaller clusters of housing within areas, which basically integrates individuals into other communities. HUD has gone away from really centralized housing projects in the same manner, but we have to look at ways in which we can start to integrate people into the community, but we also have to put in resources from not just an educational standpoint, but from a cultural standpoint. Inside the county as a whole, we've lost social services. You know, we've got to go to St. Augustine for all our essential services, from unemployment to Social Security. And that's difficult for people who have transportation issues. And so we've got to look at all those things when we start talking about how we're going to increase and create jobs. I think the good part, and what I'm really excited about, and we thank you for being here, as well as Senator Perry and Representative Payne, is Putnam County has started communicating together. The stakeholders, the county, the city, the municipalities, we've all started working together for a common goal. And I think that's the greatest portion of what we have in place. And I think as long as we make a unified effort, and we stop pointing fingers from the past, and we just get away from historical harms, and we move towards preserving the future, this community will thrive. We've got the greatest assets in the world, in my opinion, and we're truly the gem of the St. Johns River, and I think there's an opportunity for us to be stronger as we work together. And so we definitely thank you for taking the lead on this project. We thank everyone in their respective roles, and we definitely appreciate you.
Thank you. I just want to say thank you, and we have a saying with our city commissioners, we're better together, and we started working with both the county and the school board, because some of us on boards, and if you all will work with us, you find out if you give us a little bit, we can do a lot.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, both of you. And Vice Mayor Brown, Congressman, specifically told me to tell you hello, and he says he wants to go on the ferry with you, and he wants to take you fishing. The congressman really enjoys spending time with you, ma'am. To the couple of your points that you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, you had talked about the emergency comm system, which I know we've had several discussions previously. To Chief Shaw and Chief Grimes, if you are here, I saw Shaw, there you are. Hello. This is something that we have definitely been paying attention to. I know we got a cost estimate of about $15 million on this new system. This is kind of a close issue to my heart. My husband's a firefighter, so I can appreciate the challenges that you're going through. And we also, in addition to the comm system, we have had several talks with DLA about the 1033 program. And through executive order, we're going to be making some changes that make it more accessible for you and you, Sheriff, to get equipment and resources that'll help our county commission budget, but also for our emergency services and our fire service, we're going to be opening up the 1033 program to you as well. That's our goal, and we're proud to be leading that effort. On the Social Security office, our office is well aware of that. We are working on an appropriation mechanism. We've been told by Social Security that they do not have the funds to put an office in here, so we're going to give them the funds to put an office in here. We don't like the answer no. So that is something we are aware of, and we will continue to keep an eye on. And then as far as the land trust, I would definitely like to talk to you about that more and some of the housing issues that we've discussed in the past. So I thank you for that. Just a friendly reminder, if you have not signed into this meeting, Miss Susan will probably take me out to the parking lot and beat me if I don't remind you. If you did not sign in, Miss Susan, where is that sign-in sheet?
It's going around the room, all the way in the back.
It's in the back. All right. Make sure you put your name and your email on there so I can contact you. And before you leave, make sure you sign this board, please, and thank you. And again, if you have to step out and you don't get a chance to stay for the conclusion of the meeting, any issues or projects that you start or you have an idea for, the whole concept is to come to us and use all of the stakeholders as resources to make that project a reality. So again, if you have to leave before the conclusion, just make sure you're always thinking about Project Putnam. So with that, if I can get Sheriff Deloach, would you like to say a few words, sir? Thank you.
On behalf of everyone in the room, I'd like to thank you again, Kat, for coming here to represent the Congressman, Representative Payne, and Senator Perry for being so diligent about attending this meeting. We've discussed a number of critical issues here today, but I think the takeaway from this meeting for all of us is that in order for us to be successful in this endeavor, we have to have a holistic approach and realize that we're not just one cog in the wheel, but as individuals, we function together best, and it's through that synergy that we can see this project realized and actually see the potential develop into something tangible. My personal belief, and the mayor alluded to it just a few moments ago, I don't have anything tangible that I can place on it right now, but I feel like that we're on the cusp of some tremendous growth here in Putnam County, and with this continued momentum and pace that we're moving forward with here, I see great things happening for us in the future.
Thank you, Sheriff. And can I just put a bug in your ear to, at some point, if you could make a statement or a written statement about Project Putnam, that will help us tremendously when working with DOJ and DLA about garnering some resources, not just for the department, but for the community as well?
Absolutely. I can email that to you.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for Sheriff Deloach? That's a dangerous question, isn't it? I just opened that door wide open, didn't I? Thank you, Sheriff. Chief Shaw? Okay, thank you. Chief Grimes? And again, an enthusiastic nod from our law enforcement and first responders. I have to give them a hard time, like I said. Yeah, absolutely.
So just so you know, there has been appropriations request put in by our office for communications this year, and we're working with the lobbyist for the county to do our best to keep that ball afloat.
If I can get Mr. Joe Pickens, where'd you go? Can you say a few words on behalf of Putnam Chamber as the incoming chair, please?
Sure, thank you, and I set my timer for 2 minutes and 55 seconds, so I'll meet your admonishment to us to be brief, and to the point. I'm here representing both the chamber and the college, and frankly, it's an easy job. Both of those organizations are simply here to understand what we can do to help this initiative. Neither the college nor the chamber is here to ask for anything specifically for us. The congressman is good to answer calls and return calls when I make them, as is Representative Payne and Senator Perry. And I appreciate that opportunity to have dialogue, dialogue that hadn't always occurred in the past. Same as I see Dr. Surrency. The dialogue that we have with the college and the school district is unprecedented, in my time. And frankly, Jane knows my time involved with the school district and has been a long time, as having been the school board attorney for 17 years before I entered the legislature. We should be proud of the resource that the Putnam County Chamber of Commerce is here and the resource that it can be to this initiative. Twice in the last decade, the chamber has been named the National Chamber of the Year in 2 different class sizes as we've grown and moved up in class. The college has been an Aspen Institute semifinalist in each of the last 2 cycles, recognizing the college as being in the top 10% of all community colleges in the United States. So we're here to offer, I am as the incoming chair of the chamber and as the president of the college, to offer us as a resource in whatever way it is we can assist the representative, the senator, or the congressman, and all these community leaders in moving this forward. I've said this before, I'll say it again, it may come as no shock to the folks in this audience. The next president of St. John's River State College is likely not going to be from Crescent City, and that person's also likely not going to live in Satsuma. And so my sense of urgency as the president, and being somebody that's from here and chose to live my life here and devote my life to this community, is now is the time for us to get together and all come together, including the college and the chamber, to make this initiative happen. So on behalf of both the college and the chamber, we're just here to help. We believe that, especially with respect to the college, that Representative Payne and Senator Perry and Senator Bradley are going to effectuate some reallocation of workforce development dollars so that the college will be in a position to do things for, frankly, Putnam and Clay that the previous First Coast Technical College declined to do. And that's an opportunity I think is unprecedented and new, and one that we are going to embrace. We expect that either shortly before the new year or immediately thereafter, the governor is going to announce that the college has received a $1.3 million Florida Jobs Growth Grant Fund award, so that we can again start working with the school district in particular on what we are supposed to do, which is educating students after they leave the high school. Here is a fact. Over the next 50 years, out of every 10 jobs that are created in America, 9 are going to require some post-high school education. Not necessarily a university degree, not a bachelor's degree, not even necessarily an associate's degree. But 9 out of every 10 jobs is going to require some post-secondary technical training or education. That falls squarely on St. John's River State College, in my opinion, for Putnam County in this area. I look forward to working with you and the congressman, as we talked about before this meeting, on the initiatives he has in mind, but the college and the chamber stand ready, willing, and able to help in any way we can in this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and I think you teed up a nice segue. If I can get Superintendent Mr. Cernsey, if you would join us. I'm deviating from the agenda just a hair.
Thank you, Kat, for having us today. Representative Payne, Senator Perry, thank you for coming. And very proud to be here, and especially proud to be represented. We have 3 of our school board members here. I think Ms. Cummings stepped out, but Nikki Cummings, Sandy Gilliard, and our chair, Jane Crawford, and our staff here to answer questions. Laura France, our assistant superintendent, curriculum instruction, Dr. Melissa Coleman, who's director of federal programs and acceleration, and Renee Huff, who's our director of career and technical education, and our administrative assistant, Felicia Cahan, who is in charge of media relations. But we did talk to you last meeting. I was out of town, but I had our staff represent me in that meeting, and we just wanted to talk about what we are stressing as a school district as far as trying to connect our educational system with the local job needs and educational or economic needs of our community. And we've worked very closely with our Chamber of Commerce, done a lot of research about what the jobs are going to be in the future, and also working very closely with our college, like Mr. Pickens referred to. We formed some partnerships and are planning on forming future partnerships so that we can form these career pathways where once kids leave high school, they can continue and get those high-paying jobs, you know, get those certifications where they can be in a position where they can be a productive citizen here in Putnam County. The graduation rate is, we have a big magnifying glass on us now, and we welcome that. And I'll tell you, we're very excited over the last 2 years. Over the last year, we've grown over 9 points in our graduation rate. We're expecting in the next few days the graduation rate to come out again, and expecting another big jump. And again, once that comes out, we'll make sure everybody hears about it. But we definitely have sights on that 80% before 2020. And then we have a plan, which you have a copy of reaching that 90% mark by 2024. So that is definitely in our sights, and our staff is working very hard to achieve those targets. I've handed you a copy of our targets for graduation rate, and also I've also handed out a copy of our request to you as far as what we need to help move this district forward as far as our career and technical education, and you have a copy of that. Also, we put together a booklet, and we have copies over here, anyone who wants one, a copy of all of our career and technical education programs that we offer in our district. And it's very comprehensive, a number of careers that we address throughout our county. One thing about Putnam County, we're very spread out geographically, and it is a challenge to make sure that all of our students have equal and equitable opportunities for these career pathways and acceleration opportunities. We've taken a lot of measures to try to expand our acceleration, our Cambridge program, our collegiate high school that we're working with locally with St. John's River State, and we're trying to give kids an opportunity to either go to college or to go through a career pathway. And you have in front of you our proposal, our request is to build or continue career academies here in Putnam County. And we've identified some of the major businesses, career areas that you've talked about, some of the STEM opportunities, and we want to identify those and give kids the opportunity to work towards those careers, especially cybersecurity, which we've talked about before. And we have a plan in place where we do want to address that need. We've already worked, this past year, we've worked with our local industry, specifically Georgia Pacific, and are addressing their employment needs as far as developing an advanced manufacturing program. And they have stepped up to the plate and helped us financially in doing that. And that program is off and running, and I can see in the next 3 or 4 years, we will help meet the needs of those, not only Georgia Pacific, but Seminole and some of our other manufacturers. I do want to point out the cost of doing that is not cheap. You know, to start up these career programs, there's a lot of upfront costs, you know, as far as materials, hiring teachers above and beyond who we have now. So there is a financial expense in getting these programs up and going. So there is an appropriation request that you have in front of you, and it is a little more than we asked for last time, just because we've included the cybersecurity. So if you look at that, the main part of that is trying to get up and going and help these programs be self-sufficient and sustainable. And we have our resources in place now, but we need some startup money to make those successful. So we are here, our staff's here to answer any questions, but I just want to let you know we are engaged in helping move this district forward, not making excuses about what's happened in the past, but we definitely want to make sure that Putnam County is going to be in the upper half of the state as far as student achievement and helping our kids get jobs, not only here in Putnam County, but around the state. So thank you for your attention, and we're here and available for questions today.
Thank you. I definitely appreciate seeing the digital and the cyber put in here. We had a phenomenal meeting last week with DOD, and I think we have some folks that would like to chat with you about some opportunities and some funding. So we're very excited, and there's some partnerships and things happening here in North Florida that I think in the coming months, as those announcements roll out, people will be pleasantly surprised.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And
Does
we do
anyone
have some materials over here. If anyone wants some, we'll have those on the side. Thank you.
Senator Perry, do you have any questions? I know you have to leave here shortly. Do you have any questions?
No, I'm just excited about working with you on some of the initiatives you have. I think they're important. Like I say, we got to be prepared for the future, and what does that look like? We got to look at the future first to understand what we have to do today for tomorrow. So I'm excited about looking for it. And I do have another appointment I've got to be at, so I'll be leaving. But thanks. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Senator Perry.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Superintendent Cerency? It's an easy crowd today, sir. You're off the hook. Are there any elected officials? I know we have some appointed officials in the room. Are there any elected? Mr. Turner, would you like to say a few words? Commissioner Turner, my apologies.
Kat, I again would like to just welcome you all to Putnam County and thank you so much for helping us. But in your 5-pillar program and your other clusters and things that you came up with to support that 5-pillar program, we don't have anything in there about Putnam County's Port Authority.
Okay.
I think that should be part of the infrastructure. I think we need to look at it hard. I think we need to come up with a modern plan for it and use that as part of the growth as we go through. It's been underutilized over the years, and I think that that's something that's probably fixing to change. And I think if we could include that in the plan to see what kind of grants we could get, what we could get to help us with the Port Authority. And then again, that may be part of, you said at 2020, you're going to try to wean us off the government, which I totally understand and get. But that would be something that would help us support ourselves after we're being weaned off all the help you're fixing to give us. So if we could please include that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. But before you go, do we have any idea of how on the Port Authority, with the port that's existing, the dredging that we're going, do we have a number as far as the feet that we need to go down in order to make, we do? 20 feet? What is it currently? 10? Okay. Okay. I'm smiling because it took us 7 years to get a chief's report from the Army Corps for 3 feet for Jacksport. But 10 feet, we'll take it. We'll take that challenge.
Okay.
But we'll make it happen. I agree with you. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that
Appreciate
up. Are there any other elected officials in the room that I missed before we move into appointed? Ah! You're right in front of me.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you for being here today. And Representative Payne, it's always a great pleasure to have you. And thank you for all that have put this meeting together. I come to you today as the elected clerk of the court, but in my capacity as chair of the Development Authority, Putnam County Development Authority. The Development Authority is a duly created authority by the Florida legislature for the main purpose of promoting industrial and business development in the county. We have fairly broad powers. We are mostly in the business of issuing revenue development bonds for industry or business that wants some assistance in coming to this county. We met last week, and one of the things we talked about is why I knew what the foot was at the Development Authority meeting was the potential for the Putnam County barge port and the efforts that are out there to improve that. And so in addition to that, we would also, as the Development Authority, would like to ask for some consideration of our airport, particularly in encroachment on the west side of the airport so that we don't get in the issue with glide paths and development that would inhibit the expansion of the runway. It currently is at 6,000 feet. Should be probably 8,000 to 9,000 feet, because that then would allow planes with cargo to come in and out. So as we talk about the development of the port, we have great rail service, and if we can make sure that we enhance and protect the airport, and then with the outer beltway, you know, we've pretty much got all the four components of transportation coming to a hub right here, and we want to make sure that we recognize those assets that we have, and also how do we enhance them and protect them. One of the other things that we talked about last week, and Mr. Suggs and I were just talking about, you know, do we think there's a feeling of a beginning here? And from our view as the Development Authority, this feeling actually started about 1.5 years ago. And in that time frame, $1.6 billion of investment in this community has been announced, from solar farms to GP to Seminole to the hospital, and all of those activities can take advantage of the assets and ability that the Development Authority has to help in financing those projects. We also are interested in the housing component of that, because we could also assist in that. So those are my remarks as a Development Authority. But one of the things that you mentioned earlier was you wanted us to share our vision for Putnam County. And so as I looked around in this room, I saw people like Charlie Douglas and Benji Bates and some other folks that are of another generation than I am. And I'm so excited to see them, because I'm getting tired. And we need them to be helping us with this, because these actions and improvements that we're talking about don't happen overnight. They happen over generations. And so I think we're sitting at a point where we need to encourage the next generation to come and be part of that, because my vision for Putnam County is similar to what we have, but in an enhanced ability. So what does that mean? I go a lot to St. Johns County for different needs, and I have been envious of some of their growth over the past few years, but now I'm thinking they have ruined that county. If you try to go over there and do anything, you're in gridlock, you can't get in anywhere. It just seems it happened overnight. I don't want to see that for Putnam County, but what I do want to see is opportunities for Charlies and Benjis to be successful. I want to see a mercantile downtown. I want to see a men's clothes shop. I would like to see shopping, grocery shopping in facilities in East Palatka that serve down to San Mateo and further south. I don't necessarily want to see those huge housing developments. I like seeing farmland, because to me that's the essence of what we are in our community, and we ought to work hard to preserve that. I was speaking with the clerk of the court in Pinellas County, Mr. Ken Burks, yesterday. He said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Well, I just came back from the county line." He said, "What's the county line?" I said, "Well, it's a great little fruit stand." Went over there, fruit and vegetable stand, said, "Got fresh greens, fresh radishes." They brought in some new crop of oranges. We got cabbage growing. Potatoes will be coming on pretty soon. I said, all out of the field today. He said, "Well, I bet that's pretty neat." I said, "Well, what's really neat is when they pull the tractor up and it's still sitting on the back." I said, so those are the opportunities that I see for our community. So it's not only for the Charlies and the Benjis, but it's also for the Andersons, the Siennas, and the Mollys, and those are my grandkids. And I want them to be here. And my last story is, as clerk of the court, when Senator Perry talked about technology and robotics in the manufacturing industry, technology is in all of our jobs today. I serve as chair of the Technology Committee for the Florida Clerks Association. I've been that for 7 years, so I've been on the leading edge of technology and e-filing and digitizing court records and court access so that the public has access to court 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. In the past, we would have an army of people walking up and down the hallways of the courthouse pushing carts with files on it. Out of the vault, into the courtroom, back to the desk, back to the vault. It just never ended. The door to the vault never opens anymore. We don't use paper. So my staff now, we don't lose them because we lost people pushing carts. We have people pushing bits and bytes through computer systems. And they have to be much more technically savvy now. And so as we move forward, I'd like to see a new auditorium at the St. Johns River Community College, because I know one of the concerns Dr. Pickens talked about earlier was where the students are in that three-county college. But we have the School of the Arts, so we ought to be promoting that, and that keeps that student base here in this county and keeps this campus viable. And so maybe that next president does come from Putnam County. So all those are things of my vision, and I'm excited about this. I think we're really on the way, and with the congressman's help and with Representative Payne here and all these great folks, we cannot do anything but succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. I'm going to start calling you Renaissance Man. You got so many titles. I didn't realize that you were involved in so much. But you brought up a great point. How many millennials do we have in the room? I can't be the only one. Come on now. 2, 3, 4, 5. I see 5 or 6. Okay. So you're right. We need to take the 5 or 6 that are in the room here today, and we need to multiply that number over and over and over again, because it's getting to the point where we have to have a seat at the table, and this is our future and grandchildren's future, so we need to do more to engage our youth here locally. So thank you for bringing that up. On the ag front, I would be doing y'all a disservice if I did not mention that, of course, Congressman Yoho sits on the Ag Committee. He's the senior member from the state of Florida on the Ag Committee, and he was probably the leading voice when it came to disaster supplemental appropriation money during the hurricane. I know that Vern Buchanan, congressman from South Florida, ended up being the title on it. In Washington, it sometimes just works out that way, that the most senior member gets those titles, but regardless, we are very in tune with the ag community here, as well as across the district. I see Mr. Johnny Counts back here. He can speak to the congressman's involvement with our local ag community. And I believe we have someone here from IFAS, from UF-IFAS. All right, perfect. And they'll be speaking later, but we have been actively pursuing R&D money for University of Florida that will help keep our ag community alive. We're coming up on the next farm bill, and the congressman has some very niche priorities that directly impact our county here and our district. One of those programs will be Young Farmers money to keep our ag community and heritage alive. Average age of a farmer today is 54 years old. We need to get our young people engaged in farming, because farmers make up less than 1% of the population, and we feed the world, not just the United States, but the world. So these are some of the things that we see as an opportunity for Putnam County. Like you, we want to see farmland. We see a way to do that, kind of like how Alachua has done it. You've got a biotech hub, state-of-the-art, world-class, and then all around there you have farmland. So it's a great meeting of the two worlds. And you mentioned the support for current industry. The investments that GP, and I see our friends here from GP, you all have been tremendous in supporting the community, and the investments that you've made are incredible and keep the community afloat. So thank you, GP, Seminole, and some of the others, thank you. So we plan to address some of the initiatives that will support current industry here. And I've made notes of all of your suggestions, and I will be relaying those back to the congressman. On your airport priority, we agree. We want to see that runway go to 9,000. We've chatted with DOD. They can actually use the airport if we extend that runway for some training opportunities, some touch and goes, and that will be some additional funding mechanisms that we can identify and utilize there. So are there any remaining? Oh, hello.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Linda Myers, privileged to be the elected tax collector in Putnam County, but here speaking as a member of this crowd. As many of you, I have been in this room and other rooms with the same message for 30 or 40 years. We have fabulous ingredients. We've talked about them. In fact, better speakers than I have been up here to explain what we have, and one of them is the passion. The missing ingredient that I'm taking away today, and it hasn't been, we know that our senator, our state senator, and our representative, Bobby Payne, understand us, care about us, and are moving us forward. The ingredient that you are bringing, which I'm walking away as a takeaway, which I think is so positive, it's not that you've come here and said hello. It's not that you've come here election time. It's that you've come with a plan that is to roll up your sleeves, understand us, recognize our history, look for a future for us, and be part of it. That's been an ingredient that we haven't seen in such a long time. And I walk out so much more confident with what I hear today and what I see in the plan that won't go on a shelf because you're committed to our community. And that's been a missing ingredient. So kudos to the office, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Linda. You're going to be our cheerleader moving forward when times get tough. I like it. Thank you. Thank you for those remarks. Are there any additional elected officials in the room? Last call for electeds. All right. With that, I would like to ask, I'm going to call her Lex because I'm gonna botch her name if I say it any other way, but representing the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Okay, all right. They're going to be giving a presentation about their 12th county initiative. The state actually is going to be rolling this out, and it's an incredible program that when we initially, the congressman, started this Project Putnam, he spoke with the governor, called him while we were actually meeting on November 29th, and said the governor's on board, scheduled a conference call with all of the directors of the state agencies for 2 days after our initial vision meeting. And we realized that we were doing pretty much the same thing, just at different levels. So they're going to talk about their 12 county initiatives and how we're going to meld these together to make this a great success.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Erin Gillespie. I'm the Deputy Chief of Staff for the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity. Thank you, Kat, for having us here today and for this exciting meeting, and Representative for being here. I just want to say thank you all. This is so exciting for us to see at the state level, all of you to come out to give your time and effort to your community, to be here. This is what is going to make your community move forward, is the investments that you're making, your efforts. We want to help. I know, same as you, at the federal level, the state level, we want to provide our resources to you, but what will make a difference in this community is what you are doing here today and what you take from this and move forward. So I just really want to applaud you for that, and thank you for being here. I wanted to give you a couple of updates about the state economy, the local economy here in Putnam County, and then talk about our 12 Counties Initiative, as Kat said. Our agency, the Department of Economic Opportunity, handles workforce, community, and economic development. Those sound like broad categories, but today, 3 things you have talked about fall under us: affordable housing, disaster recovery, and the Florida Job Growth Grant Fund. So those are 3 very specific things that we are already working with you and your community to work on and move you forward. In the 7 years since Governor Scott took office, private sector companies around Florida have created 1.5 million jobs. The unemployment rate has dropped to 3.6% as of October. The new numbers for November will come out Friday, so we'll see what the new numbers look like then. And our labor force is growing at 4 times the rate of the nation. And so what that says to us is that the policies and tax cuts and initiatives that Governor Scott and our legislature has put forward are working. They're working at the state level, and they're working here on the ground in Putnam County. Your unemployment rate as of October was 4.4%, so it's higher than the state's rate, but it is down from 2010 when Governor Scott took office. It was 13.3%. So that is dramatic change that I'm sure you all have seen. you've had great successes here, but I know that this community, like others across the state, have challenges and opportunities ahead. And as Kat said, we wish every county could do a project Putnam, because this is an incredible effort from the Congressman's office. And I hope you realize what a resource, like I heard your elected officials thanking the Congressman's office, what a resource this is, because this is exactly what we are trying to do in the other communities across the state. So what we did about a year ago is we took a look at counties across the state that had not, they were improving. Every county's unemployment rate has dropped over the last 7 years, but there are some counties that just haven't dropped as much. They're still ahead of the state average. And so we have about 12 counties, and Putnam County is one of them, where we are trying to come and meet with you one-on-one to provide that technical assistance to see how the state can help. What are your challenges? What are your opportunities? Fortunately, Kat has done all the work for us for Putnam County, and I hope that y'all move this project forward. Exactly what we want to do is the slideshow earlier that showed each of the different categories where you want to move forward. And 3 years is a very aggressive time frame, so I'm really impressed with that, and we will be back to see what you do. But we just want to make sure that all of the resources that the state has are here. So if you have a challenge in education or healthcare or housing or economic development, that we can bring a team of people down to say, these are the resources available. Some counties just don't have the capacity to come to us and say, this is what we need. We want to be proactive and reach out to you and say, these are the resources the state has to offer. With what you have here on the ground, the resources of our federal government and the resources of the state, I think we can really work together to move the entire community forward. And again, I just want to say thank you for letting me come, and thank you for what you're doing. This is what's going to make a real difference in your community, and we appreciate all of your efforts.
Thank you, Erin. Does anyone have any questions for Florida Department of Economic Opportunity? All right, perfect. You're off the hook. Thank you. Next, I don't know if she wants to speak. Is Rebecca Manning here? Oh. Do you want to say a few words on behalf of, okay, just so everyone knows, USDA is going to be one of our major partners in this initiative moving forward for rural development. We recently got our new state director, Ms. Sydney Gruters, for rural development at USDA, and she'll be based out of Gainesville. I know there are some current projects going on right now, but just so everyone knows, USDA is here. They're represented. If you have any questions, you can talk to Rebecca after the meeting. Is that okay? Perfect. Following, let me see. James with St. John's River Water Management. Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning. My name is Jim Troiano, and I'm an intergovernmental coordinator for the St. John's River Water Management District. And today I'm here representing our governing board, as well as Dr. Ann Shortell, who sends her regards, as she couldn't be here today. Her best wishes to everyone here. However, she had another meeting to attend. She did ask me to speak today and to thank you, Kat, the congressman, our representative, our senator, and all the stakeholders here for allowing an opportunity to talk about something very important to us in our district, is our cost share programs. One of the things that we have at the district is an ability to give back to communities throughout our 18 counties, and it's called cost share. And through this effort, we have a competitive application process, one where our governing board will evaluate the applications that staff ranks and provide money back to communities. And these are very important for our 4 core missions, whether it's water supply, water quality, whether it's flood protection, or the management of our properties and the restoration of our natural systems. But specifically for Putnam County, there have been 10 programs since 2014 that we've been able to award. And that's big for us. That's about $7 million in construction costs for this county and to the municipalities. And it also allowed us to provide $6.2 million in funding back to these communities. And the important part for us is how it affects our environment. So if you just think for a second, 1.6 million gallons through these projects alone of alternative water supply, approximately 1.6 million gallons a day of new water, and about 1,700 pounds of nutrients being removed from our waterways. Folks, that's a big deal, and that's what our cost share programs do. It gives back, and we're very pleased to be able to do that. We also provide our agricultural cost share programs in helping our farmers, our agricultural communities. Our governing board recently awarded approximately $775,000 back to farmers and members of this community locally. one most recently, $246,000 to L&M Farms of East Palatka for helping them for a subterranean irrigation type system. So what I'd like to just talk briefly about is our 3 programs that we have to offer for infrastructure programs starting in January. We have our district-wide cost share, which will go throughout our 18 counties. All of the municipalities in our county are very aware of this process. They were very successful, Putnam County and the city of Palatka last year in awarding funding for them for important projects. Starts in January, ends in February. Our governing board will evaluate and make a decision in April, and that's up to $1.5 million in individual funding for projects throughout the district. As I mentioned, we have our agricultural cost share. We have 3 programs, one that goes district-wide, one that will specifically target our Tri-County agricultural area, which is Putnam, Flagler, and St. Johns counties, and then a small portion of Putnam County that will fit into our Silver Springs Basin agricultural best practices area. And our final one is our ready cost share and innovative costs. So of recently, on December the 12th, our governing board awarded the city of Palatka $500,000, as well as the town of Interlochen $500,000 for ready initiative funding. And so these are important programs that Dr. Shortell asked me to talk about to show that we're continuing to support these communities not only today, but into the future. And we're a major employer in this community. Many of our employees live and work here in Putnam County, and we're committed. Dr. Shortell is committed to this process, and we look forward to not only serving today, but into the future as how we can to see these potentials realized for Putnam County. We're here to assist, and I'm here to answer any questions if I can throughout the day. And again, thank you for this opportunity to talk about these very important programs, not only what we've done in the past, but what we're able to do in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Does anybody have any questions for Jim with St. Johns River Water Management? Representative, any questions?
No, just a quick comment. Jim, thank you for being here. We've established a great relationship with Dr. Shortell and Water Management District, especially after the storms. We spent a lot of time with Water Management District touring the areas that had flooded areas, looking at some of the deeper canals and agricultural areas as far as what we need to do and come up with some resolutions. So thank you for being here. Thank Dr. Shortell for her hard work and the Water Management District work for us in Putnam County. Thank you.
Certainly will. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you. Next, Northeast Florida Regional Planning Council. There we go. There you are.
Thank you, Kat. Representative, good to see you. My name is Brian Teeple. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Northeast Florida Regional Council. And for those of you who don't know who we are, we're an association of 7 counties and 27 municipalities in Northeast Florida, and we've been serving our region for 40 years. On a personal level, I've had a 32-year personal and professional commitment to Putnam County. I come here a lot. I think Representative and I have spent some quality nights together talking about solid waste, sir. That's true. Yes, sir.
You need to give a clarifier for that. That was a solid waste landfill. So.
Thank you very much. I just kind of want to talk about a couple initiatives that we have ongoing that I think fit very nicely to what the Congressman is doing with Putnam County. First of all, we are taking a look at our regional economic development strategy, partially funded by our friends at the Economic Development Administration, and that is Innovate Northeast Florida 2.0. As I say, it's a regional economic development strategy, but one of the key factors in this new strategy that we're going to be kicking off starting in January is a deep dive into the economies of all of our 7 counties. We find that to be extremely important as we build up a regional strategy. The second thing that we'll be kicking off in January is a regional tourism initiative. All of our local governments and all of our counties and all of our chambers do a real good job of marketing themselves individually. We think that there are gaps that exist where we can bring those efforts together and really market Northeast Florida as a place to come and stay. So whether they spend a day in Palatka, then maybe spend a day in Green Cove, and perhaps other places, frankly, we just want to fleece them of their money before they go see the mouse. One of the things that we'll have a special emphasis on in this initiative is looking at our rural areas and small towns, because the city of Jacksonville and St. Augustine, those guys can do a pretty good job of promoting themselves, but some of the smaller communities have trouble doing that. We are waiting on a grant from the Economic Development Administration to fund a 2-year position for Regional Disaster Recovery Coordinator, so we can come and help Putnam County and those other places with additional resources and additional manpower. And then finally, we are the community's access to a variety of EDA programs, including their Public Works program, their Economic Adjustment program, their Local Technical Assistance program, and the University Center program, which is at the University of Florida, and they can provide technical assistance as well. I do want to recognize three of my board members here, Commissioner Harvey, Mayor Hill, and Commissioner Goddard is back there. And I also recognize a whole bunch of former board members. Ms. Myers. Okay. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. And I just have to say, every time I'm in Washington, I try to meet up with EDA, the Economic Development Agency, and they always refer to our partners down here on the ground and talk about a regional approach. And they have had nothing but great things to say about you and the Northeast Planning Council, so Regional Council. So thank you for that, and thank you for all your hard work. And to your point about a regional approach, we are actually in the process of rolling out Project Bradford, Project Marion, Project Alachua around, so we can have that regional approach to go after more dollars, because as you know, we may think in terms of county lines, but tourists, visitors, they don't. So we are definitely looking at a regional approach, and I appreciate your comments about that. Does anyone have any questions for Brian? Do you have anything you want to say? Perfect, thank you. Could you all humor me for just 1 second? I know we're about 2 hours into this. Could you just stand up for me real fast and take a nice big stretch? Yeah, I don't think we would. No.
Anybody turn anything in? Okay.
Arthur wants to speak, or maybe she did just recess.
All right.
So when you guys are here,
So, we're in the home stretch, last 45 minutes.
I have a letter for Representative Yoho.
Perfect.
And that's what I'm going to give to you.
Perfect, you know, and I got you on the agenda. All right, I got you.
Good, how are you? Hey, ma'am. Oh, so good to see you. Merry Christmas.
We were talking about you the other day.
Well, good, y'all come.
How's your grandson doing?
He's great. His road, he has just exploded.
That's awesome.
My dad is not doing well right now.
Oh, no, really? No, I would say maybe move this up there so that people can sign it in the back. Okay. Because none of people want to sign it, they just haven't had a chance.
Well, when they're talking
opportunity there. Yeah, I mean, we got federal. We can do. I didn't know that. And I got your fairgrounds buildings, your arena that I've been talking to folks in Washington about. So it's all coming together. It's all coming together. It's a process. It's coming together. Yes. We always sit next to each other at all these functions.
I'm taking it as a positive.
Jonathan and our interest, at least for the city side, and Jonathan was like, he's definitely accessing because of the regulation.
This week, should roll out in January. That's how we do it. Yeah, I'm gonna call everybody back now, so. And then talk about. If I can get everyone to take their seats, please.
Look at it next time.
No. It's gonna be. I got it. I got good news for you on your
Opportunity to escape.
It's like we're gonna get it open up to fire.
Just text me when you're on your way.
I get a high five for that, right?
It's just a refill.
I don't know where your stock is. It's right here. We need to. Okay. Are you talking? If I can have everyone take their seats, please. We're going to get started here in 1 minute. Okay. All right. Yeah, we need to talk about that, and I need to circle back. The DLA is getting me language that will open up 1033 plus. I got them set up where we're going to be doing a title transfer, and they will talk formula so that people can actually start getting equity in the equipment. Makes sense. Why wouldn't we do it any other way?
Go get her, she'll figure it out. I wish I had that kind of personality.
That's just they do stuff that makes no sense. Yeah, see, we need to talk about that. That's what I'm saying. All right, we're going to get started and wrap this up. We've got about 45 minutes. We're in the home stretch. Oh, I should gavel.
There you go.
I've always wanted to do that. I'm getting the look from the commissioners that I'm not allowed to do that, but that's okay. Bobby told me to do it. All right, I appreciate y'all hanging in there with us. I know it's a long meeting, but it's an important one. So we'll jump right back into it. We have some local stakeholders, organizations, and folks in the room. And just a friendly reminder, let's try to keep our remarks to about 3 minutes. And then we'll open it up to a very large Q&A at the end, and then I'll hang around for a bit if you have any questions you'd like to talk to me about afterwards. So jumping right into it, I'm going to turn it over to our new county manager, Mr. Terry Suggs.
Thank you, Kat, and thank the Congressman also for your assistance here today, and Representative Payne and Senator Perry. What a great meeting we're having so far today. Very informational, very helpful. Some of the things that the county is dealing with. Let's just jump right into it. I've had the benefit now of almost 2.5, 3 years of serving both the city of Palatka and Putnam County, and I feel like we're absolutely on the cusp of great things here. We've got some issues that we're dealing with. Recently, leaving the city of Palatka, we talked a lot about our wastewater issues over there. Several miles of water lines at the tune of about $25 million for replacement. Wastewater treatment plant that's probably near 10 years beyond its life expectancy. So we got some issues that we're dealing with there. We talked about Putnam County. We talked about a $35 million debt. These are debts for things such as our own wastewater treatment system and the jail. Those are two big ones. We also look at, a 9.882 millage rate. We're looking at diminishing reserves. These are all things that we're dealing with on a daily basis. These are our hurdles in Putnam County. So what do we do to fix that? Well, it starts right here today with what you and the Congressman are doing, and we thank you again for all that you're doing. We're looking at, we talked about infrastructure clusters. I believe the Putnam County and the city of Palatka and all the municipalities are in great shape here because we have the three big. We have the Riverport, we have the St. Johns River itself, we have an airport, and we have the rail system. Those are three big infrastructure things that we can actually, when you talk about clusters, those are three large areas that we can cluster development around. I think we're poised for great things there. We've talked to Amtrak, and I wanted to share this with Mayor Hill. Myself and County Attorney Stacey Manning had a conversation with Amtrak, and their response to us is there is not any discussion of closing down the Palatka station. As a matter of fact, they're wanting to enhance it. They're wanting to do things, and I wanted to share this with the Blue Ways and Trails folks and our cyclists. So that's one of the things that they're talking about doing, is being able to turn it into a system where you can actually bring your bikes and things of that nature to Palatka, because it is such a big event here. We're looking at things for, you're helping us with our population waiver. Thank you so much for that for the city of Palatka. That's very, very encouraging. But these are the things that we have an opportunity to work with and enhance to help us get beyond what it is that we're dealing with today, to go back to what you're talking about being sustainable. And I think we as Putnam Countyans, we understand what hard work is. I think our diversity is key for us. I think our work ethic is key for us. And I think our citizens are key for us. I think when you put all that together, the ability for us to change the culture and the mindset of what Putnam County is and can be, there's no limit to our abilities. And I am so looking forward to it. I feel like I'm in the catbird seat of what is fixing to happen as a county administrator with the staff that I have, the community that we have here. We're just so excited for what's happening, and we want to make sure that you understand we're a part of what it is that you want to do, and we'll do all we can on our behalf to make it more successful for you folks. You're very responsive, and I hope we are to you as well when you call and request things. But again, I think this commission, the city commission, and all the commissions of the municipalities are ready for this. Our broadband, I think we've talked a little bit about that today. Hopefully Putnam County will be in a position here shortly to offer the middle mile service for broadband for our rural communities, because that's key. I think we need to make sure that that's available to all of our residents in all four corners of our community. And just the things that we're working on, I think they're huge, And I'm just so proud to be here today and so proud to be a part of it and so proud of this community. And thank you.
Thank you, County Manager Terry Suggs. Does anybody have any questions for Terry? Bobby? No? I appreciate it, and thank you so much. You've been great working with for the last year. You've been very responsive, and thank you for always answering our questions. A few weeks ago, the congressman was on the phone with the governor and asking for very specific things in real time. So as Ted is on the phone, I'm frantically texting Terry asking for certain figures, and he's always been great about getting right back to me. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes, sir.
I failed to mention one more very important thing. I took notes, and I didn't even read my own notes, but
I do that all the time.
Yeah, and we've talked about this today too, but I got to emphasize that the communication towers for our public safety. We've had multiple incidences where we've lost communication, and we can't have that. When we have our law enforcement and our first responders out in the field, it's unacceptable for us to not be able to provide them the service that they need at the most critical times of their need. So again, I just ask for us to really work diligently and very steadfastly on helping with that issue if we could.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And again, I think we ballparked that at about $15 million for the entire project. It is on our radar. We're chatting with our federal partners as well as the state on that particular project. One of the other projects that we had spoken about previously was the equipment, the broadband equipment that is currently on cell towers that does not belong to Putnam County. We are in the process of working with USDA. It was a federal grant to get that equipment. We're working with them to get a title transfer to the county. We've got a team of lawyers in Washington on that right now, and they have been for the last couple of weeks. So we got some things in the hopper that we're working on, and thank you for bringing all that up, and more to come. All right. Friendly reminder, we've moved our giant poster, Project Putnam poster, to the back of the room. So if you have to step out, please take a moment to sign that. That will be going in the congressman's office. So write nice things, please. Or just sign it. No stick figures. I would appreciate your help with that. Do we have Azalea Health here today? We do. Perfect. Jim, thank you so much. You've been so great working with us, especially during the hurricane. You were
I think y'all really
clutch
helped
player.
us during the hurricane, and I should definitely thank you, because once you got Congressman Yoho involved and your staff especially to get our Crescent City Center back open, we really appreciated that.
Absolutely.
Because people in Crescent City know what a disaster it was down there on the road, so, and with the power infrastructure. And Kat, we do appreciate Congressman Yoho's having met with us a couple of times. And I did want to take a minute to say a few things about Azalea and let people know what we do. Somebody think we're, so I can do that, I'd like to comment that I've known Bobby was going to be a leader since kindergarten, and certainly first grade. And generationally, I think those comments are appropriate. You do see the leadership transitioning. Mr. Martinez was one of the first people I worked with when I got an accounting job, so it was great to see these people. But, and I was going to thank Tim Smith for my jury summons. I appreciate that very much. That, by the way, is in addition to the one my daughter got. But I work for a company called Azalea Health. We're a federally qualified health center. What that means is we get some money, direct federal funding from the federal government. We were started in Putnam County in 1977. Since that time, we've grown to have 11 medical centers and 3 dental centers. We operate 8 pharmacies, with the 9th open in January. But the important part of that is we're a Putnam County-based organization. We provide a lot of services directly to Putnam County because we grew up here. Our admin function is here. And, you know, what does that mean? We have about 34 physicians that work for us. But with those physicians and dentists and pharmacists, there are 300 employees. Of those 300 employees, 154 work in Putnam County. And that growth rate since I've started is 272%. So we've been growing as the country ages, as healthcare becomes a, you know, a central part. Oops, excuse me. Is this what I need? I'm already nervous. But the healthcare needs to be a part of our plan for county, because when people look at where they're moving, they think about the schools, the infrastructure. They also think about doctors, especially if they're retirees. They want to come to the counties with quality health care. Azalea's been integrated into the healthcare community for almost 40 years, but we also see a need to bring specialists to support our local hospital and the entire medical community infrastructure. You know, we're proud to be a part of that. A lot of doctors got their first introduction to Putnam County when they worked for us, and a lot of them stayed in the county, and we're proud of that too. You know, what does that mean? We provided about 120,000 medical and dental visits last year. Almost half of those were in Putnam County. So we're a big part of the healthcare community, and you know, we just want to continue to be engaged, to be a part of the solution. And I took down a couple of notes about things that I think are important. Certainly housing. When we're recruiting physicians, we hear about housing in schools. That's always on the doctor's mind. And you know, those things that I'm hearing in the plan is good. I definitely feel like Putnam County is going through, you know, we may have already turned the corner in our growth. I mean, if you look at just the building downtown and the last year, and we're talking about hotels and hotels for bass tournaments. Well, we have 3 hotels in town that are less than 10 years old by my fingers. Hopefully I'm right about that. So we're seeing some positive developments in that direction. But from the medical community, we definitely need to continue to attract that quality of doctors to support the local hospital and to, you know, keep the medical aspect of this quality of life. We're unfortunately in Putnam County, we're leaders in a lot of bad healthcare outcomes. I think that has a lot to do with the economic demographics of our county and people's access to health care, and that's one of the things our company tries to improve. So, you know, I definitely am here to commit Azalea to be involved in the process and to do those things. And then I heard a couple of people with ask. I didn't come here to ask for things, but I'm glad Congressman Yoho's in Washington. One of the things that's important to community health centers is our 330E funding and this fiscal funding cliff. We potentially could see a 70% cut in our federal funding January 31. And, you know, that would be pretty catastrophic for the community health centers as a whole. That certainly would cause, you know, great concern to us if our budget was cut that much. And our budget is 23% federally funded. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it's millions of dollars, and a huge portion of them are spent in Putnam County. So, you know, I will leave with that ask that we would have that funding. I'm excited about what I'm hearing about what we're doing with the county. I think this building here is an example of the vision the county has to take something that was in decline and turn it into something nice. And since I live right down the street, I appreciate the improvement to the neighborhood. And, you know, I just wish y'all well. And again, Tim, thanks for that jury summons.
Hey, Jim, real fast before you go, I had 2 questions for you. Are y'all a choice, under the choice, are you choice eligible for VA, for veterans to come to you if under the choice program?
No. You know, what I see a lot of times is veterans come to us for convenience things, but they're still going to go to the VA for other items, you know, more intensive health care.
Okay.
And that's just my personal, from people I know are veterans that I see pop in for certain things, and that they still go to the VA for other services.
But you do, have you had anyone submit vouchers or reimbursements under choice?
I haven't. I wouldn't necessarily know that. I'm a little removed from the actual bill collecting. But, you know, we definitely serve veterans, and we keep track of that. But I will verify that we're considered a participant in that program.
Perfect. If you could check on that for me. And then the second thing that you mentioned, the health outcomes and how we're basically #1 on all the bad lists that you don't want to be on. This is definitely outside my wheelhouse. I wouldn't even pretend to know where to start as a congressional staffer about suggesting outcomes or benchmarks, goals that we could hit in terms of health outcomes for the county. So I will defer to you and our team of professionals here in the county as to what you all would see or prefer to see as far as health outcomes countywide. If you could
I certainly
brainstorm
would speak
some.
to the county. In the healthcare industry, there's been a push to move toward quality outcomes.
Mhm.
Something generically we call HEDIS measures, which is an abbreviation. I really don't know what it stands for, but what it means to us is we look at how our patients do. Is their diabetes controlled? Is their blood pressure controlled? Everybody who pays us measures those outcomes. And of course, we live with a difficult population because there's lots of challenges. But we work hard, have spent literally millions of dollars to have the ability to track these healthcare outcomes. And by that I mean generically, it's not down to the person, but we need to know how many patients we have with high blood pressure and how many of them are controlled, how many people with diabetes are maintaining their treatment plan, do they have access to insulin and those types of things. So yes, the healthcare community, we're already pushing that as an initiative. What we want to do is get Putnam County out of that top bracket, and if we can move toward the average, that would be great.
Well, we would love to incorporate some of those initiatives that you have as the healthcare community into this project. Perfect. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Jim? All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. I know we've already touched a little bit on schools, but we do have a representative from STEM to Hub. Perfect. Thank you.
If you'll bear with me just a second, I do have a
And while she's gearing that up, just a friendly reminder, if you haven't signed in on the sign-in sheet, I will track you down and make you sign that sheet. So please do that. Also sign the board. We have donuts and coffee outside. Hannah ran to the store this morning for those, so please eat them. Otherwise, we are going to have an incredible amount of donuts and orange juice in our office, and we don't want that to go bad. So please eat and drink that if you don't mind. Bobby, you have any comments?
I just would like everybody to sign that poster that's going back to Congressman Yoho to show our level of support and commitment he's given us. Please do that before you leave. That means a lot to folks that are in office to be able to portray that. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I feel so terrible with my back to both of you.
Don't feel bad. You're all right.
Otherwise I'll forget what I'm talking about.
You're all right.
So my name is Kathleen Schofield. I'm with the Northeast Florida Regional STEM 2 Hub. And you'll notice we do have a 2 there. That's because the M is squared. And the second M is medicine. Many times when you think of the acronym STEM, you just think science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. So part of our initiatives recognize that the medical field is a critical area where we need to develop that talent pipeline. So, like many of our speakers have said, that regional approach is very powerful. And because of that approach, we've been able to bring some bigger resources here to Putnam County that we might not otherwise have had access to. You can see by the diagram, our region consists of the 7 counties that are defined by the Economic Development Council, and Putnam is right in the heart of our work. We were formed in 2015, so we're fairly new, by Gary Chartrand and some folks in Jacksonville who recognized that education needed to really look at what's going on in the 21st century needs and how the jobs of the future will be changing. So while we're working on talent development and bringing the best possible opportunities for our kids, we're thinking with economic development and filling that pipeline for economic development here with that in mind. And our mission is we look to find the gaps and find the things that are missing so that we can build engaging programs to help give kids the opportunities to see what is out there, guiding them towards STEM to careers. How we do that is through our board of directors and our partners. And our board of directors consists of 14 of, I call them the people who sit on top floor of the big buildings in Jacksonville, along with our superintendents and college presidents that serve our 7-county region. We also have national partners. We have Microsoft Teals, Code.org, the STEM Funders Network, and that hooks us up with best practices that are going around in big and small communities around the country. So we've been able to tap into that work, and we've been able to bring many of those resources local, right back here to Putnam County. When we think about the work that's going on and all of the things that people talked about today, our senator talking about early childhood education, all the way up through the apprenticeships and internships that are needed for kids, I just think about how crazy it is what that world might look like due to robotics and advanced technology. So we focus on reaching in and figuring out how can we work within the framework while we're bringing all of these innovations into our schools and classrooms with that focus on workforce development. We know automation and robotics are changing the world we live in, but we also see to get kids ready for that world, we've got some critical gaps. Mathematics, our results for children in mathematics is just not where we need it to be. And if our kids haven't passed the algebra end of course exam, by the time they're in 9th grade, we've just about slammed the door in their face to so many jobs. So one of the things we're working on deeply is helping to provide a program that will help our teachers know deep content, how to close those gaps in children. And through Project Putnam, I'm hoping we'll be able to address math in our school district here. Computer science and literacy, coding, robotics, 21st century skills, these innovative programs are already being addressed here in Putnam County. And as someone who has worked with the 7 counties in the region, and I was formerly with Clay County School District, I want to just applaud Putnam County for reaching out so quickly and working with us to bring these opportunities right here to the students sitting in our classrooms now. And Putnam is, I found this little clip on Just Do It. We're looking at how these things align and taking action now. Things are happening in our schools. Due to that national network that I mentioned, Dr. Coleman, representing Putnam County, went to a national community of practice meeting. And she learned there about something called the Bicycle Club. And you're thinking, oh, great, we're going to go ride bikes after school. Well, we are. But before we do that, we're going to study math and physics by taking apart a bicycle, studying the gear ratios, studying the math, forces and motion, all of which align with our curriculum. Kids build this bike, and then they get to go ahead out and ride the trails to rails, as a matter of fact. And the children also then get to keep that bicycle. So there's a real investment for them. We've developed something called the Web Crew, which teaches kids the 3 main building blocks of the web, things that are so critically important for cybersecurity, web design, 3D animation, and so on. And when STEM 2 Hub developed that in cooperation with some Jacksonville business folks, guess where we piloted that program? The first place to have that is QI Roberts High School. And so we're just thrilled with that. Putnam County will be sending 2 schoolfuls of children up to our STEM Vengers Conference, where they're going to get exposure to advanced manufacturing through 3D printing, coding, and robotics. And they're going to spend a great day doing that. Robotics clubs, there was 1. And now, through Putnam County's aggressive seeking out of some funding, they've been able to start robotics in many more schools at the elementary levels and the junior high levels. Additionally, through our regional partnership with Code.org, who's a nonprofit interested in every child having these opportunities, we've been able to start teachers here teaching advanced placement computer science in our high schools. And we've met with all of the high school principals. They've got aggressive expansion plans to have more children exposed to that curriculum and the job opportunities that it brings. And additionally, we've started with the babies. Our senator mentioned early childhood, and we've got our elementary teachers learning how to incorporate coding across the curriculum. So we've got kindergartners all the way up learning how to code and learning the basics. But more importantly, it helps them build their confidence and know that these jobs are for them, not just for those people over here. We've got so many partnerships that have come together. Outreach from the Museum of Science and History in Jacksonville. They'll be visiting our schools and providing STEM programs to engage children, and also working with the library system to really enhance opportunity for children. But probably the most important thing, there's been a lot of talk about national defense and cybersecurity today. And National Computer Science Education Week just happened the first week of December. There was a kickoff event in Silicon Valley hosted by Code.org where we heard from the females, top tech females. We heard from the CEO of YouTube. We heard from Melinda Gates. We heard from Facebook's Chief Operating Officer, and we got to interact with these pioneers for technology so that we could make some inroads. We met with some people that have a very forward-thinking cybersecurity curriculum that we're investigating to see how we can bring that into the program. And we're looking at developing, similar to WebCrew, programs that focus on the things that we know are the workforce needs of the future. We like clubs and competitions because the kids work together and they get to compete. And we all know we're heading into a very competitive world. Putnam County schools have just grabbed onto these opportunities, and they're accelerating learning for children in these new areas at a great pace. And I've worked with the Congressman and Kat before, and I am so excited about this partnership because I know together we will really be able to make this happen and make Putnam County into that place of the future that still has the heart and feel that we all love here in Putnam County. So my contact information is here, and I did sign the sign-in sheet. So I'm just excited to have been asked to be here and thrilled to get to help make this happen here in Putnam County.
Perfect, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? No? Bobby? No? Thank you. We're really excited about that. Congressman Yoho, he has been an active participant in the Congressional App Challenge, and this year during Computer Science Week, we selected our App Challenge winner, and we did not get a single entry from Putnam County, so we're going to change that. We want to see a ton of kids developing apps out of Putnam County because it is an incredible opportunity, and it's just more resources that we can give to the kids. So moving on, do we have a representative from the Palmer Group? All right.
Come over here where I can say hi. I'm Charlie Palmer with the Palmer Group, based out of Orlando. We're an 18-year-old development company, family-owned. One of the things that I was really interested in your PowerPoint is your opening line on there was Putnam County, the best place to call home. We're a developer. We certainly agree with that. And one of the things that we find over the last almost a year, interesting at the same time frame, you've been here kind of digging in hard. We've been looking real hard at the county. We looked hard initially at all the statistics like you did, and the county statistics say there's nothing to do here. But when you get on the street, you find it's a completely different answer. The Chamber of Commerce, we talked about building some apartments, some market rate apartments here. You'll probably have them all filled up before you complete the project. Talked to one of the competitive apartments, a tax credit deal, low-income housing across the street, and he said, how many are you going to build? And I said, oh, about 100, 200. And he said, no, you need 500 of market rate. This is not affordable housing. I was on the governor's Lawton Childs Housing Study Commission in the 1980s. We helped create the Sadowski Act. I was active and a younger man then. And affordable housing is very difficult to do. It's mind surgery. The actual housing ends up costing twice as much as market rate housing. You get it affordable because you put fancy financing on it. But the programs require you going through a lot of governmental tough stuff to do, and it's really difficult, and so we don't have any interest in it. The good news is that whether Putnam County needs that or not, we find that we can develop market rate housing, quality market rate housing here without subsidy, and it's needed. The teachers group is somewhere in here. I've talked to somebody and so they're trying to hire folks, and we can't bring them in because they can't find a nice place to live. Well, the last market rate apartment property built in this county was 31 years ago. That's market rate. Now, there's some other tax credit, some senior housing, et cetera, but it's here to be done. Putnam doesn't have a beach. It doesn't have a military base. It doesn't have a Disney attraction. It doesn't have major retail centers. It has a lot of things that other places have. But what it doesn't have is impact fees. That's a big deal. So when we look at this county from the outside and we see the surrounding counties with the average price of homes being in the $200,000 to $500,000 range, and the statistic from the Realtors Association in October was the Putnam County's average sales price was $74,250. Most of that is because there's not a supply of market rate housing here. So there's no statistics to say to do it, yet on the street we see the demand. So how do we get that done? So we have talked to the commissioners, we've talked to the city, we're trying to get it going, and it is difficult. The county is not used to, I don't mean this badly, and the city is not used to much development. So the process is a difficult process to go through. It takes months. And we have to go raise capital. So I go to New York and they say, well, first of all, where's Putnam County? You know, that's a difficult bridge to get across to raise capital to do those kind of things. But once we get them started, and we've now attracted a group of developers, a group working with us with over 300 man-years of experience in development. So the reason for going through all of this is to hopefully remind you that it takes the private sector. All the day has been full of public folks agreeing to work together and work hard, and it ought to be, and thank you very much for this. I've been through several of them over years. This is one of the best, and I compliment you guys for doing it. But don't forget the private sector, the taxpayers, the folks who pay for all this. So our encouragement is to help your elected officials work together with any private developer, any development company that can come to town and get something going. So encourage them to work together with the private sector. I think you made not a mistake, but I would suggest something, and that is that housing should be on the recovery side of the deal. It should be now, because housing can happen right now. Folks can go out and take permits, they can go build, they can raise capital, they can start economic activity going. So think about housing as a solution for the county, not a problem. It's not that kind of a problem. So kind of remind you of this. A plan without execution is an illusion. So help the private sector dig in. Mr. Bates, you know what I'm talking about. It takes a lot of work to put deals together. So encourage us all to work with the public and private sector together so we can make this county exactly what you are talking about. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. And thank you for your comments. It is absolutely going to be a heavy lift that requires our private partners, not just our elected officials and appointed officials. So thank you for that. And I look forward to chatting with you about how we can keep moving forward. I definitely do hear you on the housing side. I think I mentioned it earlier. Housing has been listed under the growth pillar, but there will be components of it definitely in the stability, because I agree, it's such a critical need right now. We need to make sure that we address it now. So thank you for that. We're going to be moving into our open forum portion. I'm going to ask very politely to please stay in your 3-minute remark phase, just because I know everyone has things to do and I want to be sensitive to everyone's time. So is Ivan with CMA Behavioral Health here? Okay. If you've got some remarks that you would like to make, I've had a couple emails from him, so I just wanted to make sure that I offered up the floor for a few minutes. Perfect.
And then also just to let everybody know that we're here to help in any area.
Perfect. Thank you.
Because mental health and substance abuse affects every area of the county.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you. Vito with the South Historic Neighborhood Association.
Thank you for letting me speak. I first want to say that I think you're a fine representative, Ted Yoho.
Thank you.
Let me begin by, I share Mayor Hill's belief that in order to change the condition of our community, we have to change its culture. And I'm the president of the South Historic Neighborhood Association, and we believe that in order to address the socioeconomic crisis, we need leaders with vision. The SHNA, the South Historic Neighborhood Association, wants to contribute to the community's revitalization, and we want to do this by transforming the most beautiful building in Putnam County, the Campbell Building, the historic school building on the south side. We want to transform that into a cultural arts center with community outreach programs. These outreach programs are after-school programs for our kids, as well as programs for adults and for our seniors. The Campbell Building is really a gift from heaven for this community. It gives us an incredible opportunity to establish one of the fundamental building blocks of revitalization for this community. Because communities throughout the entire country, large and small, have turned to the arts as a means of establishing an economic driver and to contribute to their revitalization. So SHNA's vision for the Campbell Building as a cultural arts center will generate revenue streams that not only pay for the upkeep and maintenance of the buildings, but will fund all the community programs. All these community programs for all of our citizens will be free. So let me just end by saying that the Cultural Arts Center community programs are for all of our citizens. It will have an immense cultural and economic impact, and it will contribute to moving Putnam County forward.
Perfect. Thank you, Vita. And I have a letter here from you that I will hand deliver to the congressman, and it was mentioned in our previous meeting on November 29th about the need to include some fine arts programs with Project Putnam. We have made note of it. It will be incorporated, and it is on our radar, so thank you for that. Up next, Mr. David Dinkins from UF. Go Gators.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I want to thank Congressman Yoho and Representative Payne. They are tremendous supporters of agriculture. I've been in agriculture all my life, grew up in St. Augustine, hung out in Hastings when it was really a real town. Now it's St. Johns County's taking it over, but we're looking for good things. Specifically, I came here to talk about a food innovation center for Putnam County, and I'm going to come back to that. But first, I'd like to comment on a few things that have been said today. Kat, you mentioned that the stability pillar is the most critical of all the pillars. I just wanted to point out that agriculture is your most stabilizing industry that any county can have, whether it be Putnam County or a county that's rapidly urbanizing like St. Johns County. We saw after the 9/11 terrorist attack and after construction crashed, that agriculture still kept communities strong. So that's a base and a foundation that every county needs to support. So I appreciate that. We talked about tourism. There's an effort right now, the rails and trails are going on. There's going to be a celebration, I think somewhere around August, that will celebrate the opening of the rails to trails with an agritourism corridor between Hastings and Pulaski. I'd like to mention that. The reason agriculture is so stabilizing, as you also mentioned, targeted industry. Agriculture needs to be a targeted industry because what it does, it buys products locally. It buys tractors, it buys supplies, chemicals, that type of thing. But where do they sell most of the products? Yeah, a few things are sold at county line, but most of them go outside the state or even outside the country. So agriculture brings what we call new money into the community. So we're just not doing each other's laundry. In the laundry business, no disrespect. That's a pretty good group of people, and there's not so many people in laundry usually in meetings. So anyway, wanted to mention that. The millennials, the good news is we have a lot of millennials that are in farming, 20-somethings and 30-somethings. I'm glad to hear about the Young Farmer Initiative, and those folks are passionate and want to stay involved. One other thing I wanted to mention before I go back to the Food Innovation Center, and I appreciate the 3-minute deal, so I'm going to, country boys will talk fast all of a sudden. The cost share is very important that the water management's providing. In the Tri-County area, there's actually been about $10 million put into this area in the last 6 or 7 years. Over 1 billion gallons of water are saved annually now because of that. They mentioned the tile irrigation system. That is saving 30 to 50% water. It's greatly reduced the nitrogen and the phosphorus. But from an economic development, that tile system allows the farmers to take out their water furrows, okay, because the water's going down into the tile, and they gain 12% more land. So that's a 12% yield increase. And just from a taxpayer standpoint, for a utility to save water, it's going to cost them anywhere from 10 to 30 cents a gallon. For these ag projects, it costs 1 cent a gallon in just the first year, and these systems are good for 15 years. So it's 15 cents a gallon. So statewide, it's going to save hundreds of millions of dollars if we continue to support agriculture on that way. The Food Innovation Center, it is part of the Northeast Florida Regional Council Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy. There's over 30 projects in that development strategy. There are 12 vital projects, and the Food Innovation Center is one of those. And it could go anywhere in the 7 counties. But being in that plan makes it eligible for Economic Development Administration funds. I have met with Greg Bidet a couple of times over here, so we hope to engage more. Those type of projects have to be at a public facility. Putnam County has a state farmers market, and y'all are familiar with it. It has been vacant more than it has been occupied. It is vacant right now. There's a wonderful opportunity to put in a facility that would be not only a kitchen that people could use and food entrepreneurs, but a training facility. We could partner with the college for the vocational training, but also product development. Agriculture, I'm going to give a simple example. Sit down and shut up. We all know about our cabbage, right? Farmers get, say, 33 cents a pound if they were to sell that to the military, a box of cabbage. Not a whole lot. If they take that same cabbage and they cut it up and put it in a bag, they would get 77 cents a pound. So we can add a lot of value. And the other thing, the health people are here. I lied, I didn't quite shut up. But the health people are here. 7 out of 10 people that die from chronic disease, obesity, cancer, diabetes, that type of thing. Half of us have a chronic disease. Half of Americans have a chronic disease. One of the best things the CDC recommends is that we eat healthier. The CDC has a list of about 40 crops. We can grow almost every one of them here. The number 2 thing for nutrient-dense food is Napa cabbage. That's the trend in this area vegetables now in the Tri-County Ag area. So there's lots of opportunities. We're growing purple sweet potatoes with anthocyanin. That's even better. JR is back there. That's a great grower back there. So he's actually could be a drug dealer. What's in this muscadine grapes? Resveratrol. Okay, one of the healthiest things you can eat. But we now have a purple sweet potato that has anthocyanin, the same thing instead of blueberries. Okay, so there's just lots of opportunities, and we do need some champions to move this forward. If you're dependent on me to get it done, I've been here since '04, working in this area. I ain't got it done, I ain't gonna get it done. Citizens, we need y'all and government, everybody pitching in. And thank y'all. I'm like everybody else. I'm excited and I get passionate too. That's why I gotta sit down.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. David, thank you. I didn't see you back there. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know, I've spent a lot of time the last 2 months with the agricultural community, and have talked about the lack of use of our farm facilities and our ability to use those facilities to help culinary arts and all types of things. I do have some purple sweet potatoes in my refrigerator, so got some this week from Danny Burns. My stepson happens to be in agriculture. I think you know Chance, in food products and animals, cows and calves, and so we spent a lot of time talking about that. Knowing that the Young Farmers and Ranchers program is an essential program for us in rural communities, that's something we want to keep moving. I was disappointed this year that the legislature didn't fund the 4-H programs like we should have. That's of critical importance to us. Water management, doing cost share programs, and farmers understanding, and folks don't understand that farmers and ranchers understand best management practices. That's their property. They're going to preserve their property for the heritage of their children for years to come. So thank you for mentioning that. Spoke with Larry Corn recently at L&M Farms about the tile program. That's a great example of where water management couples with farmers and ranchers to make sure this best management practices are in place. Spent some time in Clewiston this week down at U.S. Sugar and saw some of their practices as far as, and I know that Danny Burns is using them, or let me think of who else I saw just recently. Danny and, help me out here, David. Not Tater Farms. Yes, and also Danny Johns. Danny, forgive me. Danny and I are surfing buddies. But Danny uses integrated technologies for fertilizer. So those have laser leveling crops, laser leveling fields. Using those new technologies have really allowed farmers to produce the level of crops that are sustainable for us to depend upon with shrinking resources. So I'll close that with they farm, we eat. So thank you. Appreciate it.
I want to second everything that you said, Bobby and David. I appreciate your passion. I thought I was the only one who got real excited about these issues, but man, you can get me worked up talking about some nematodes and some new technology coming out to help our farmers. I really appreciate you and your suggestion about including ag on the stability pillar, and that's not a hard sell for us. We love ag, and we are ag. I feel like I'm a farm credit commercial right now. But we will definitely include that because we agree it is part of the stability. And in Florida, it's our #2 economic driver, so second to tourism. So 100% we will include that on the stability pillar. It is one of our target industry clusters, so we're going to be working with our educational partners, and then of course in the federal sphere, we're going to be supporting all of the initiatives within the Farm Bill, and that includes the technology and the research, the R&D component. Obviously, being Florida, there should be no reason with the citrus greening issues that we have that that solution should not come from anywhere else but the University of Florida. So we're working tirelessly on that. So the Food Innovation Center that they're talking about, there's definitely help that we can do on a federal level. Of course, working with our state partners, Bobby here, on making sure that money gets to the region. EDA has been a wonderful partner for us, and so we look forward to helping support that project. And in that same vein, we would like to host a government contracting how-to for people in the county on how they can do business with all federal agencies, whether it's military or any other ABC agency. So we'll be hosting that probably in the second quarter of next year. I think that maybe some young farmers who are interested in doing business with the government would find that interesting. And of course, as we move forward with the Farm Bill, any feedback that anybody would like to give us, whether it be the farm program side or the nutritional side, the SNAP program side, we are all ears. We are your representative, so it's your office. So thank you for that, and please say hello to Mr. Jack Payne for me.
Two last comments.
Oh, boy.
Targeted industries, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I can tell you, Randy Ringhaber wouldn't build this place over in St. Johns County if he didn't recognize the value in targeted industry and how that economic outfall affects all of us in the community. And last, I want to give JR an opportunity to defend himself against the drug comment.
Just come on down. And we got to find out about these sweet potatoes. I don't know anything about these.
Thanks for that. I guess we'll take the segue from ag into the Putnam County Fairgrounds. I'm the current chairman of the Fair Board. I guess I want to follow up real quick on something that Linda said. I cannot think in my memory of a time when we've had such strong leadership from the business community, such a strong county commission. We haven't had such placement in state and federal legislature as we've had. You know, you said it, the stars are aligning, and it's not by chance, it's through a lot of hard work. So I'm excited about things to come. The fairgrounds, we feel like we are, can be an integral part of Project Putnam. We feel like we fit into both stability and growth. Our vision will build that grounds into a place for increased meeting space, educational space, entertainment space. We have wonderful volunteer core, both business and just general public. So we've got great momentum, we've got a space, we've got a vision, and I think it fits in well, and we want to play our part. So thank you.
Thank you, JR. Does anybody have any questions for JR or David from IFAS? Nope. Okay. Next, we're going to have Liz with Ride Solution.
So Ride Solution is the transportation provider for Putnam County. And I've been with Ride Solution for just about a year now. But prior to that, I've known of all the wonderful things that Ride Solution does for the community. It is one of the most innovative transportation agencies in the nation. We take people to doctor's appointments. We can make them healthy as long as we can transport them. We can take people to work. And we transport people not only within the community, but also to Gainesville, St. Augustine, and Jacksonville. And we do this every day, 365 days a year, even on holidays. But we also can bring people from these communities into Palatka or in Putnam County. We can take them to events. And that's what we are striving to do. With different interactions, we actually work with the Regional Planning Council on some of these regional transportation initiatives. But our house, where we live, our administrative office, is at the Palatka train station. And let me tell you, this is an awesome time of the year to take a train trip. We see people gather at the train station, and they do some tailgating at 7 o'clock in the morning with little mimosas as they get on the train and they go down to Winter Park and go shopping. Well, we want to be that destination. We want people to go from Jacksonville and come into Palatka and come into that Palatka train station to go shopping in downtown Palaca. Go check out our waterways. Go fishing. But they have to get from the train station to the waterfront or to the shops. Ride Solution can do that. And the city of Palaca has recognized that, and we work together in submitting a Tiger grant application to help improve the Palaca train station and improve the walkability between the train station and the waterfront and all the infrastructure there. So it's a Tiger grant that's currently out there. So
Well, that's exactly, not to cut you off, that's exactly why I wanted to have our stakeholders here today. If you have a grant that you're applying for, looking at, or you have applied, we're happy to submit a letter of recommendation and make a few phone calls in your support. So make sure you get that information to me so I can do that for you.
And thank you. And anything we can do to help with this project, we're here to help.
And we did submit your appropriations request this year. Unfortunately, I'm getting labeled as one in the State House that lists the most appropriations needed unfairly. So.
We
But we're going to
appreciate
fight for
it. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. I know we're running short on time, so hang in there with me. Patrick Kennedy, Crescent City. Okay, I think he may have left. Just let it be known that we're working on South Putnam. There we go. Mr. John Nelson, Palaca Housing Authority. Hey, John.
How you doing?
Hey.
I came here originally because I heard the last meeting the people were talking about public housing, and I wanted to get some facts straight about public housing. 1962, the county and city fathers saw fit to bring into the county, into the city, public housing for affordable families. During the ensuing years, through 62 to 65, there were some 460 public housing units constructed. Those 462 public housing units are still in existence today. However, the city and the county has not grown, so it represents a large percentage of the housing stock in the city and the county. Well, the county has 1% of public housing. The city has 10%. I'm not here pushing public housing, but I am pushing affordable housing. The county and the city needs affordable housing to entice teachers to come and stay, to entice law enforcement officers to come and stay, to bring in workers for the factories. So please consider, as part of Putnam Forward, affordable housing to make sure that the folks who are coming here to make Putnam greater have a place to live.
Thank you, John, and absolutely. That was one of the concerns that we heard from our school board, and that's on the top of our list. And it looks like you and I are going to be working a lot together because we have a lot of work to do, but I hear you loud and clear. And definitely HUD, my meeting with HUD the other day up in Washington, we talked about the need for affordable housing, new housing, particularly for our law enforcement and our teachers and the employees of the current industry that supports the county. So thank you. And do you have any questions, Bob?
No.
Thank you. And please, at some point after the meeting, I'd like to chat with you if you could hang around. I appreciate it. Thank you, John. Richard from Veritas Steel. He may have had to take off. All right, I'll call him back. Andrea from North Florida Land Trust. Okay. Land Trust, Putnam Blue Ways and Trails, Azalea City Brewing Company. I like the brewing company part.
Okay, that'll be the official announcement. But first, I wanted to say my name's Andrea Conover. I know quite a few of you from my different organizations. I came from St. Johns County about a year ago. And what attracted me to Palatka, I live in East Palatka actually, on the river, was our beautiful natural resources. I've been active with the Putnam Blue Ways and Trails group for a few years, even when I still lived in St. Johns County. And I'm happy for the ideas for development for Putnam County, because we certainly could use some more, but I don't want us to get ruined and overdeveloped like St. Johns County. Part of our attraction is our beautiful natural resources and the great small towns. So while we're doing that development, let's make sure we don't overdevelop and ruin our resources. We've got kind of a clean slate. We could do sustainable and eco-friendly development and try and be a model for the state as all these 6 million more people move to the state in the next few years. So my day job is with North Florida Land Trust. We're a land conservation group for the 7 county regions, and we work on conserving natural resources, historical resources, and working agricultural land. So we're all about the saving our agricultural areas here in the Tri-County Ag area. And I'm active with Putnam Blue Ways and Trails group, and just want to make one point on that. The ecotourism that we've got here is mostly run by volunteers, putting on the different events. And I hope that the chamber or the county, whoever is promoting tourism, starts recognizing that we got to pay somebody to do that, because we're burning out our volunteers for all the different events that we put on that bring all the visitors to the county to enjoy our trails and waterways. And last but not least, I guess I'll make the official announcement. Some of you know that I'm interested in putting in a microbrewery in downtown Palatka. So it'll be called Azalea City Brewing Company. I'm going to put it in one of the historic downtown buildings. I want to make it a family-friendly environment. Microbreweries are this great trend. You know, St. Augustine has a bunch, Gainesville, Jacksonville, gosh, even McClenny in Baker County has it. So Putnam County needs one. I've been talking about it for a year. No one else is doing it, so I guess I will. And we're going to have some food in there too, and do the local healthy foods, because I'm all about that farm to table kind of eating too. So that's all. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you. And the congressman and our team, we look forward to an invite to the ribbon cutting on the brewery. We have some phenomenal breweries around the area, and they do great things for the community in Gainesville, Jacksonville, McClenny, so we look forward to having one here. And I'll be in touch with you on the land trust issues, and then also about looking for some opportunities to get a paid position for the ecotourism projects. Do you have any comments?
No, what's the location? When's the opening? Do you have that targeted?
You can see where our heads are at.
Can we go there for lunch?
Up next, we're going to have Robbie with Revitalize Historic Palatka. I'll call you. Okay. Mr. Johnny Counts, a.k.a. Elvis. I'm sorry, I have to call him Elvis. Every time I call him, his ringback tone is one of my favorite Elvis songs. So.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me here, too. I appreciate being involved in this. I've had, since I've met Congressman Yoho and also with Representative Perry, and yeah, I've known Bobby for a while around town. The congressman and the senator both have inspired me with the way they've approached their offices and the way they've approached the people. They're very personable. They're very caring, and they reach out to you, and they've inspired me to be a little more involved with things, and both the congressman and Senator Perry have some strong constitutional beliefs that I share, and so they inspired me to continue to move on in this direction. Bobby, you inspired me not to play ball against you from them softball days.
I didn't inspire you with my constitutional beliefs either?
Yes, you did.
Okay, thank you.
I just remember them balls going way over. I didn't want to pitch to you. But no, the vision looks great. I love that everybody's come together. I wish there was a lot more of us still here today. And I appreciate those of you that are not on the clock today. I truly appreciate y'all coming and taking the time to be a part of the community. Something that Ben Bates said earlier, about the vision. We need to look forward, and that made me think about a quote from George Washington. It says, "We ought not to look back unless it's to derive useful lessons from past errors and for the purpose of profiting by dear bought experience." So even though we need to look forward, I think we also need to remember that good counsel too of what we've learned from before. But I've said it before, we sit here and we look up at that emblem of Putnam County, and I look up there and I see a gold nugget, and we are surrounded by everything really. But we have it all. We've got the resources. We've got this agriculture, which I really appreciate David getting up here and talking about, because that's a heart of this community. There's several $1 billion impact in agriculture, silviculture, horticulture, aquaculture. We've got fish farms here too. So we've got all that, and I really would like to see us take a hold of that and improve on that, because we've got that for us already. We don't have to bring anything in. And with the technology that's coming along now, the farms are moving right into technology too. The education of our youth is imperative for this vision to go forward. We have to teach them. And the basic things is what they really need to know. A lot of things that we teach them don't do much good from what I can see. We've got to get the basics back down of how to be good citizens, how to manage money, how to have a budget. We're not very good examples of a budgeting government or a people right now. And so that's something that's imperative for this to go forward, because they're the ones that's going to be taking care of this. Agriculture is our wisest pursuit, because it will in the end contribute to the most wealth, good morals, and happiness. That's Thomas Jefferson said that. And so if we encourage this education, promote those 4-H programs, the FFA programs that we have in the school, they teach so much. They get these kids hands-on and get them out there working. Work is what is a necessity for our survival. We have to work. Actually, it's a commandment. The Lord said, by the sweat of our brow, we're going to eat our bread. And that's how it all works out. But that vision we have to have, definitely all this that we talked about. I thought about, when Mr. Bates said we had vision, we got to look forward. Well, you think about the Cheshire Cat and the Wizard of Oz, and I know some of y'all probably have seen that. Probably some of y'all probably seen it in black and white. But they, Dorothy comes up to the crossroads. There's the Cheshire Cat. She said, "Which way do I go?" He says, "Well, where do you want to go?" She said, "I don't know." He said, "Well, then it don't matter. It doesn't matter which way you go." So we definitely have to have a goal and a way to get there and know which way we're going. And I think this is a way to, so much community coming out, so many different parts of government, we all got to work together. I think it's great. Something else that I think that I haven't heard mentioned today is the religious aspect of it. We need to get these communities together. All of these different faiths need to come together. This plan needs to be put towards them. We need to work together to help one another, help us all come up out of it. Rising tide lifts all boats, all that good stuff. But no human society has ever been able to maintain both order and freedom, both cohesiveness and liberty, apart from the moral precepts of the Christian religion. Should our republic ever forget this fundamental precept of governance, this great experiment will then surely be doomed. That was John Jay that said that. All these founding fathers, they were very educated, very smart. And they didn't have the kind of education we have now. They had, it's the family unit. They were brought up with religion and the family cohesiveness, the family unit, and working. They worked when they were young. They understood that. So we've got to instill the religious aspect into everything we do. I believe it needs to be a part of this vision also. And we need to rely on the gospel of Jesus Christ. We need to rely on those precepts of everything in our lives, everything we do, because it governs us. And that's how we receive those blessings. I appreciate definitely appreciate the time that everyone spends on this. This is something that we've rarely seen in a long time. And we have a lot of people that's involved right now. We're all kind of looking in the same direction. We need to come together with a definite plan and know which way we're going so we can tell the cat right or left. And tell Congressman Yoho we appreciate everything that he does. Senator Perry, Representative Payne, we love you too. Y'all are doing a great job. This is the most interaction, like they say, most interaction that we can receive from any government that we've ever been around. Only other time it's been on TV or something is when you see them. That's as close as you get to them. So take this opportunity to apply what we've learned, move forward in a way that's going to improve us now and in our future. And let's not forget the Creator's plan. The family is essential to that plan, and we need to have some good morals and characters and virtue, or none of this is going to survive. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. All right, I have two speaking requests left. Mr. Douglas Thompson may have stepped out. And Al from Putnam Health and Fitness. All right. Well, that concludes the open forum. Before I get into closing, Bobby, do you have anything you'd like to add in closing?
No, just once again, thank you for being here. I think we've covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
It's time to go to work. Let's get to work and make these visions happen and make this a better community for all of us. Thank you for being here, Kat. Thank you, Congressman Yoho, for his leadership and vision.
And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone here today, our team over here who's been diligent in helping us out and making today happen. Our IT crew in the back, he's waving, you can't see him, but he's waving. And thank you all so much for being here today. I know, like I said, it's a challenging week with the holidays right around the corner, taking time away from work, from family, to really become a part of this. And the Congressman is very serious about rolling out the beginning of the year with this. In his words, you can either be on the train or be left at the train station, but the train is leaving the station. So we want everyone to have a voice at the table. This is a community effort. This is not something that we're going to do blindly. It survives by your input and your participation. So thank you. And when the social media campaign goes live, I encourage everyone to please share it. We want to get this out to everyone we possibly can in the county so that they know that their elected officials, their appointed officials, and organizations that support the community are out there working for them. So on behalf of Congressman Yoho, thank you, thank you, thank you. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.